Tonight's broadcast of the NLRL Sunday League is brought to you by Malwa Transport, oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialists of Quebec. Visit their website on www.malwa-transport.ca. Welcome, race fans, to what is possibly the most anticipated event in the history of the series, here at the season finale, round 10 of the NLRL Sunday League Season 3, powered by Malwa Transport and live exclusively on TRTN. As always, I'm Regan Clark, and it is once again my great pleasure to be coming to you from the crown jewel of British motorsports, the mighty Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, founded by, I should say, the Royal Automotive Club on the abandoned RAF Silverstone Airbase in 1948. In the modern day, it's consisted of 3.6 miles and 18 turns of FIA Grade 1, home of the world's first ever Formula 1 Grand Prix race, the 1950 British Grand Prix, which was won by Giuseppe Farina. In the modern day, it also hosts races for not only the Formula 1 British Grand Prix, but the MotoGP British Grand Prix, as well as races for the European Le Mans Series, with potential speculated returns to the World Endurance Championship, as well as British Touring Cars and British GT. It is the hub for all things British motorsport. Today, it marks the final battleground in this spectacular championship as the gap between Milliston and Vermac drops to 20 after a chaotic and controversial last round in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But as the dust settles after round 9, we find ourselves with 82 points left for grabs here, leaving 4 drivers left in possible contention. The story of this season, though, has been very closely charted by 3 of those drivers: Melvin Milliston, Tyler Vermac and Cas van Velsen. The 3 were at their closest to championship contention last round in Indianapolis. Heading into Silverstone, however, the gaps have opened up between Milliston and Van Velsen, allowing Vermac to take second in the standings after the South African claimed his 3rd consecutive victory this season. Looking into today's round of the championship then, for what we are expecting, we are capping off Season 3 of Round 10 with its finest, most popular layout, of course, that being the double sprint format. That's 2 qualifying sessions and 2 race sessions, double the points from what was 41 points available to now a staggering 82, keeping the championship super lively at this time. As for the Teams Championship, we can see that's the new drivers. Then for the Teams Championship here, Malwa Racing lead by just about 90 points in the championship. Now, that does leave them susceptible to being intercepted by K1 Esports, but that's on the ground. They can't find a single point more, so that championship is practically all but theirs. And looking into the Drivers' Championship with only a few minutes left to go, Melvin Milliston leads with 301 points. Tyler Vermac in second with 281 points. Cas van Velsen third now, down a position from last round to 244 points in the championship. That puts himself 22 points ahead of Christian Lebay, who makes the top 4 as our last available driver to contend for the championship here in Season 3. Byron Forrest rounds out the top 5 with 187 points ahead of James Mason in 6th, Kevin Quain 7th, Ben Cheeseman up to 8th position after Indianapolis. A great turnaround for him, puts himself ahead of Ivan Sanchez in 9th, and Sergio Belda rounds out the top 10 with 90 points for the Hokianos Motorsports team. So with not long left before the discussion of our first qualifying session, about a minute left to go, one of the most poignant discussions to have been had after round 9, besides the elephant in the room that was that monstrous incident between Bruno Carr and I believe it was also Felix Schwab and Melvin Milliston, namely, has been Milliston's move back to basics here. He's gone away from McLaren in a rather shocking move, to say the least, back to BMW. Now, long-time viewers of the NLRL Sunday League will know his first 2 championship wins in the Sunday League came from BMW, that being Season 1 Round 4 at the Red Bull Ring, which we sadly couldn't cover because I had a very nasty case of the flu, and the opening round of Season 2 at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. He took both of those wins with a BMW not too dissimilar to the one we're seeing right there in the centre of our screens. So on that departure away from McLaren, Milliston evidently bringing his A game for these next 2 races to follow. It is still incredibly close to fight for in this championship, and one of those contenders that we've been talking quite a lot of there is Tyler Vermac. We said at the start of the season, all the way back in Brands Hatch, it could be his championship to take here. The momentum carried forth from Season 2 has put Vermac in one of the best positions possible. Now is his opportunity to capitalise on all of that hype. James Mason first out of the field and with a brand new livery. For the first time, not seeing him sport the colours of K1 Esports. James Mason with a very broadly different tone there in a, what's that, turquoise and purple BMW. A striking new appearance then for the final run of the Sunday League here for the 413. Here in Season 3, I should say. On board with Mason, of course, the early bird out of the pits, but following him very, very closely on his trails there is Melvin Milliston in that brand new BMW. I suppose I should say it's either a brand new BMW or he's dusted off the old one, brought it out of storage for this race, and really you can see the intensity already off the bat. This is only the outlap, mind you. So before we get on to our first flying laps, let's discuss balance of performance and qualifying predictions, as we now got cut on board there with Melvin Milliston overtaking James Mason down into Vale and Club Corner, starting things off with balance of performance. Aston Martin once again with 40 kilos shed off of the V12 Vantage, following them very closely here for an all-British front row of highest weight losses is Bentley with the 2018 Continental GT3 losing 13 kilos. Mercedes losing 7 kilos, and then into the positives where Ford find themselves miraculously without double figures, only 7 kilos for the 7th generation Mustang. Porsche find themselves with 10 kilos to play with. BMW on the real short end of the stick here, possibly the worst time for Milliston to have moved back to his old paddock at BMW. 14 kilos for the M4, but that's not as bad as McLaren and Ferrari. 17 and 19 kilos for the pair of them. As we follow now with Milliston down towards Brooklands and Luffield as he's short to start his flying lap, and we can see that just how close things are in the qualifying predictions by Simbot. It is 0.5 of a second between Vermaak and Milliston, according to the Simbot predictions. Now, of course, theory will only take you so far in this championship, and we've seen even more bizarre results come out of the qualifying based off of just data alone. So, with Vermaak currently leading that charge by 0.05 of a second, we'll see just exactly how that lands with half the available time of a normal qualifying session. Only 10 minutes compared to last round's 20. So, Melvin Milliston onto the first of his flying laps down into Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Sadly, the telemetry not showing us the start of that lap, so it still shows him on an extended flying lap. We'll stay on board with Milliston out through Chapel, down onto the hangar straight. In its life as an RAF installation, it was a Class A airfield built during the Second World War, used to house and train pilots of the Vickers Wellington medium attack bomber. And this was the hangars where the hangar straight now resides. That would be where the aircraft was stored in between sorties and operations. Out through Stowe. Down towards Vale and Club Corner. Now, these would be the normally the final corners of one's run around Silverstone. You'll note that we're starting out at the National Paddock as opposed to the Wing down here as we head out of Club Corner and down the Hamilton Straight past the Grand Prix Paddock. Now down into Abbey and Farm, what would normally be the start of one's lap here at Silverstone. It is still something that I still struggle to wrap my head around, is starting out of that Nationals. That's why we don't use the turn numbers, we just use the turn names now. Down through Village into the loop, with Milliston already looking like a very strong, very confident start. Not a lot of rattling there from the BMW. It has been steadfast on what has been a silky smooth opening flyer. We'll see exactly where that stacks up after the first run of lap times. You can see in the distance there, James Mason and Cas van Velzen to be our next times onto the charts as we head down the Wellington straight down into Brooklands and now Luffield. So as we bring up the timing charts then on the left-hand side, Melvin Milliston to be our benchmark time here for round 10 qualifying for the first of 2 races today as he makes his way out of Luffield down to Woodcote and onto the national pitch straight here to the line for the 68 across the line of 158.857. Mason to the line next and doesn't put a time on the charts. Does Van Velzen? Yes, he does. And by just under 0.8 of a second away. The 8.24. Another Porsche there. Byron Forrest across the line. 3rd fastest. Kevin Quain 4th fastest. Next to the line, Timo de Tosto in the 58 Ferrari on his way to the line and takes home nothing in that first lap there. So that is a bizarre one. Andrew Veldkamp. Now, this is another much more understated discussion of a vehicle change. Of course, we've seen Veldkamp for the last couple of rounds compete with Mercedes. Now he becomes the 2nd ever driver in Sunday League history after Christian Lebay, who just went 3rd fastest there, to use the V12 Vantage. That gives us yet another V12 on the grid. Currently, he's 6th fastest. Lebay 3rd fastest. Ivan Sanchez across the line there. Now ahead of Andrew Veldkamp, Alex Albert behind him. Bentley struggling in those opening laps then. Number 81 next to the line. Here comes Tyler Vermaak. One of the potential champions to be today. Across the line, only 9th fastest. Something had gone awry in that opening flying lap to put himself 17.5, just over actually 17.5 seconds from pole position. 5 minutes left to go then. Just past the halfway mark here in qualifying 1 of 2 today. Down into Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. Carl Martel, we've just seen across the line as well. Now 7th fastest in the 91 Bentley. Currently registered... Oh, sorry, I was reading the car ahead. That was Ivan Sanchez. The 99 Bentley. The 91 is Ivan Sanchez. His teammate Sergio Belda just went 6th fastest in the 50 Ferrari. Right now, as it stands, the 113 just across the line there. Kyle Jenkins up to 5th fastest. Right now, it's Milliston from Van Veltzen, LeBay, Forrest, and Jenkins for the top 5. We'll see, though, next to the line in a moment's time, the 413 of James Mason. Now, he missed out on his opportunity in the first flying lap we saw from Melvin Milliston in front of him to take home a time on the charts here, but better late than never. 4 minutes left to go. Feasibly 2 more laps left for the 413 across the line. 4th fastest. Behind him there is Van Veltzen. Needs 755 thousandths of a second. Couldn't find it in that lap. Byron Forrest to the line. Can he find 3 tenths on Mason? No, he cannot. The 607, though, could find the time on Forrest for 5th place. 98 thousandths of a second separating the pair of them after that set of times just now. The 119 next up to the line. Here comes Christian LeBay in the Aston Martin. Right at home here. Aston Martin Formula One's headquarters just sit across Dadford Road here at Silverstone, and he's up to 2nd fastest and ahead of Van Veltzen. Now, bear in mind, you'll note that the drivers marked with the white squares over their numbers are drivers that are technically within a shout of the championship by just maths alone. Now, LeBay does hang on to this by a very thin margin compared to his contemporaries in front, but the chances are still there, and LeBay is going to go all the way to the bitter end of this. All cylinders firing, both arms swinging. Vermac fastest then by 3 tenths of a second. Also have one of the new drivers today, and that's the 150 of Hebden down towards Village and the Loop. He'll be joining from Ferrari for his opening drive here in the Sunday League. Right now, as it stands, it's Vermac, Milliston, LeBay, and Van Veltzen are 4 potential champions. Now, it's only going to be one by one. We all know this, and we've already got the first of our 2 chapters to play out coming up in a few minutes' time. And it has been already quite an exciting show here at Silverstone, but there is much more yet to follow. Those of you just tuning in now, we're heading towards the end of qualifying 1, a 30-minute race coming up just yonder the horizon here for the start of round 10 of the championship. Then we get to do it all over again here in Silverstone. So still on board with Melvin Milliston on his way down the Hangar Straight. Currently finds himself just over 3 tenths of a second off from Tyler Vermac. Now that is a real showstopper to kick things off from Vermac. We saw that the times at the best of it could be just under half, actually just about half a tenth of a second, I should say, from each other on the front row. This is a much more pronounced gap, so clearly Vermac has been eating his Weetabix on his way into round 10 of the championship. With a minute and a half left to go, we're feasibly among the final laps of qualifying today. Milliston already up against the ropes here. Something awry with the BMW. Now, was this a gamble worth making? When you take into consideration, looking back to that balance of performance statistic, neither of these two are finding a whole deal of benefit here for weight reduction coming into this round of the championship. Both of them double figures in the positive, so neither are going to be feeling the most spry. That honour goes over towards Mercedes, Bentley and Aston Martin coming into today's round of the championship. It's going to be a tough one to call between these two. Van Veltzen, I believe, is into the... well, he's pulled to the side of the road there, so that's the end of his qualifying endeavours. Right now sits at exactly 7 hundredths of a second ahead of James Mason, who's just onto his final flying lap here in Silverstone for the end of qualifying 1 today. But the real story up front, as Vermac opens the taps up to now just under 5 tenths of a second. What is the rebuttal by Melvin Milliston on his way to the line, the current championship leader? Could he be champion here in Silverstone, or could it swing the way of the 81 of Tyler Vermac? We'll see now as down towards the line. Is it going to be an improvement by Milliston across the line? And no, so one more shot. It's all or nothing for pole position for Melvin Milliston. It has been a real gamble to move away from McLaren so late in the championship, and when there is everything on the line. Down towards Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. We'll catch up with Milliston towards the end of his flying lap. We're going to catch on board next, though, with the 413 of James Mason as he draws near to the end of qualifying now. Out through Luffield, down towards Woodcote. The 413 needed to find 7 hundredths of a second for a top 4 start. Can he make it to the line as he gets across? Sadly, not this time around. Hebden to the line and doesn't set a time on the charts. A very precarious ending to qualifying for Hebden in the 150. Jenkins in 6th then. Next to the line comes the 58. Timo de Tosto. We saw great resolve out of him in Indianapolis. A podium on debut for the American across the line then. Goes from 9th, stays there behind his teammate Byron Forrest and Kevin Quain and the Malwar Racing team. The 616 of Andrew Veldkamp across the line stays 13th for the end of Quali 1. Next to the line comes the 91, Ivan Sanchez, one of the two cars at Holkianos Motorsports. His teammate just inside the top 10 there, and Sanchez looks to be calling it quits here. He'll be starting at the best of times on that 6th row in 11th place. So let's catch on board with the real talk of the town on a move back to BMW, back to where it all started in his Sunday League career. Can it be the making of his championship? Well, today is that starting point. No better start can be found than right here in Quali. We've seen how ferocious the starts have been in the Sunday League over the course of the last couple of rounds. These two will be absolutely clawing at each other down through turn 1 at Copse. So out of Luffield on his way down towards Woodcote, could it be enough for Melvin Milliston to take home pole position? Needs 482 thousandths of a second. He's going to take it all the way to the checkered line here in qualifying 1 at Silverstone. Does he take home pole position? No, it's all for naught. A stalemate for the BMW. That's crushing for him at the start of what could be the most ferocious fight for a championship of his career. The 114 not far from the line at this time. Ben Cheeseman on his way down the Wellington Straight. Named, of course, after the aforementioned Vickers Wellington medium attack bomber, of which RAF Silverstone was used to house during the Second World War. Out through Luffield. On his way to Woodcote then. Here comes Ben Cheeseman, the final time of today here in qualifying. We'll be more onto that discussion of the grid in a moment's time. But what a qualifying we've had so far. Plenty more to follow. The bottom line with Ben Cheeseman to the line 11th at the end of his qualifying hopes. It's Tyler Vermack on pole position by nearly half a second. That is one way to kick off your final championship push. More on that then in a moment. What an exciting start to the session today. That's the end of qualifying 1. If you're looking into where we're going to be in a moment's time. As we see here, the Teams Championship on the same page, though, is the regulations. We're just at the end of Quali 1. We'll be on to Race 1, 30 minutes here in Silverstone, and then we get to do it all over again before the end of Round 10. We've got some exciting stuff coming up after today's race, so do stick around after the championship proceedings have closed out. So then, on to the news for today, and we are quite shocked for news at this time. 4 articles, can you believe it? First of which, Audi to return to the British Touring Car Championships with Power Maxed Racing for 2026. It was recently announced, even after all of the despair at Power Maxed after their workshop had burned down most recently, and they've been using cars loaned to them by Unlimited Motorsports, the Cupras, normally used by drivers like Dexter Patterson, now being used by the guys at PowerMax. They'll be running the Audi S3 Saloon for 2026 in a very exciting turn for the privateer team. Into the next bit of news then today for Formula 1. McLaren wins the 2025 Formula 1 World Constructors Championship, the second time on the trot for McLaren in recent years. It's been very, very solid by them. Absolute domination from McLaren this season. In the British Touring Car Championships, Tom Ingram wins the 2025 British Touring Car Championship Drivers' Championship overall. Dan Lloyd wins in the Independents, and Darrell De Leon wins in the Jack Sears Trophy. The last bit of news then, also from the British Touring Car Championships, Dan Camish, Tom Ingram and Josh Cook win in the final running of Brands Hatch this season. That was a fantastic closure to that. Other bits of news that we couldn't include on the top of the charts today as well. George Russell wins in the Singapore Grand Prix after a very exciting race, especially in the discussion between the two McLaren drivers behind him. So that's the end of the news segment. We'll be on to the current discussion, let's say it, of the grid for the first of 2 races today. This is going to be incredibly exciting for Archie Hebden. It is a bit of an odd start for the 150. Couldn't lay a time in on the charts. This is his inaugural round of the championship. We failed to show the new drivers. Those are the drivers from, I think, last round, actually, Indianapolis. As we weren't actually expecting any new guests this late into the season. More on that in a moment, though, because here's the grid for race 1 of 2 today here in round 10 of the championship. It's Tyler Vermack on pole position ahead of championship leader Melvin Milliston. Bear in mind the gap between those two, 20 points. We have a total of 82 points up for grabs. That's 40, including an extra point for the fastest lap per race, 2 in total. Milliston then on the front row. Behind them for an ultra-competitive second row are the other 2 drivers in available contention for the championship here in Season 3 of the Sunday League. Christian Lebay, the Season 1 champion, gunning for doubles. And Cas van Veltzen looking for his first there. He starts from 4th alongside the Season 1 champ. James Mason rounds out the top 5 and starts the look into that 3rd row. The 413 starts ahead of teammate at K1 Esports Kyle Jenkins in the 113. George Todd starts behind them in the number 25, 7th, and ahead of Kevin Quain in 8th position. It's an all-Malwar 5th row as Byron Forrest and Timo de Tosto make 9th and 10th. Ben Cheeseman in 11th and Sergio Belda in 12th. Ivan Sanchez in 13th. Carl Markle in 14th. Andrew Veldkamp in 15th. Alex Albert in 16th. And on debut, Archie Hebden in the 150 starts from the back, after setting no times on the chart despite being out on the track. So clearly a bit of a hiccup for the 150 Ferrari. And he'll probably be in a bit more of a comfortable position looking at it here with just how ferocious the starts are in this race. Ben Cheeseman asking, how am I 11th when I didn't qualify? I mean, your guess is as good as mine here, Cheeseman. That is really some witchcraft from the 114. It was either a case of that, but is either a case of that or it's just very few drivers were able to make their way onto valid laps, and that's maybe one of the major flaws of Silverstone for GT3 cars. Of course, this is a Grand Prix circuit through and through. While GTs and prototypes and everything in between do race here, it has always been under the strict auspice of open wheelers from the word go. Since the 1950s, at the dawn of Formula One, this track has been a de facto Grand Prix circuit. It has been designed for no other purpose, but it has found itself a very pleasant home for many championships on 2 and 4 wheels alike. And even off the road, as I believe the infield Stowe circuit was used, or at least the infield of the infield Stowe circuit, was used as part of the World Rallycross of Great Britain a few years ago in the World Rallycross Championships. So not long now from the start of the formation lap here for the first of 2 races in round 10 of the championship. This is going to be absolutely mega. Let's discuss that championship fight at large. It's 3 drivers in the head of it. There's 4 drivers overall when you count Christian Lebay, but the chances are getting slimmer down the order, and especially so for Cas van Veltzen, who was second in that last round in Indianapolis, but after a disastrous performance there, pushes Van Veltzen out of commission of the front row, now behind Vermaak and 57 points away from the championship lead. Still mathematically within the fight, but all eyes rest on that front row. Milliston v Vermaak, 20 points apiece here, and this could get very, very juicy or very, very bloody here in Silverstone with 2 opportunities for race wins on the charts. This is going to be incredibly close here. It's to the benefit right now of Milliston with that 20-point lead. Ben Cheeseman starts from the pit lane, so the 114 out of line for 11th will start from the back. That gives Archie Hebden on debut an extra position for the race start. So taking us away is Tyler Vermaak and Melvin Milliston. Looking around that field, there are quite a few stories to be told here. We've seen George Todd's performance. To be starting this far back is usually quite an early warning sign for the drivers in front of him. Kyle Jenkins and James Mason could have a bit of a lump in their throats for the race start here once the Ferrari gets going proper. After the first couple of laps, really all eyes rest on those top 2 rows. It is possibly the most potent performance pool we've seen in that top 4 in the history of the Sunday League. Among them there, you can see Christian Lebay. You've got former champions. You've got budding champions to be. You've got new talent. You've got returning talent. You've got veteran talent. These 2, from 2nd to 3rd here, Melvin Milliston and Christian Lebay, have competed in the Sunday League for 3 seasons. Of course, with Milliston, it was a bit more of a spotted appearance over the course of season 2, but nonetheless, every time Milliston has entered this championship, he has taken home at least 1 race win, even if it is the only race he does. Case in point, season 2, where he took only 1 race appearance to 1 win. That was at the season opener. So we head down the hangar straight here, down towards Stowe. You can see that mighty view of the grid. And for that team's championship, it is still up for grabs by a rule of mathematics, but it is looking very strongly in favour right now of Christian Lebay's Malwar Racing team. Up on that front row, and this is what makes the story quite compelling when you consider more recent bits of news, and now I believe we've had conversations in private with them about this just to make sure that it's verified 100%, but if I'm led led to be proven incorrect here, then of course we'll clarify that in the next time we go live, and there'll be more on what's coming up next for the Sunday League at the end of this broadcast. But Tyler Vermaak, I believe, has joined the Velocity Racing team. And at this time, that is technically his teammate, Melvin Milliston now. Those two on the same team. Of course, Velocity never registered in the team's championship. But these two do fall now under the same banner. This could be a bit more of a sparring session, but for these two, I think it's really going to be a case of the gloves are off. The 81 versus the 68. Only one can be crowned champion here. And the momentum has been super strong for Vermaak. Moreover, that's been spurred on by a recent string of performances in the last 3 rounds. Not only did he take his first legitimate victory after one was taken away from him last season at the Circuit of the Americas, he also went 2 on the trot at the same destination and then made it a hat-trick in the week after, heading to the United States. So really the momentum is looking likely for another Vermaak win, but the case is right now, how close can Milliston position himself, if not ahead? These two, between the pair of them, have dominated the last 6 rounds, or the last 6 races, comprised right now of the last 4 rounds. In the last 6 races to be ran, not a single driver has put themselves between these two's record. 3 on the trot between the pair of them. They are so evenly matched heading in to this round of the championship. This is going to be a battle of frankly epic proportions, and we have 2 chapters to waylay the championship and who will be crowned. So not too long from now, as we line up 17 cars in all, 1 from the pit lane, so 80 the side of it on track, as we head now out of Luffield down towards Woodcote and Copse. And so begins the crawl to the line. 16 cars on track. 1 from the pit lane. This is the final chapter. When the dust settles here in Silverstone, only one will be crowned champion. And with 2 races up for grabs today, this is the very start of it for race 1 of 2 of round 10 of the NLRL Sunday League. Without further ado, down towards the line here in Silverstone. Taking us from the front row, Vermaak and Milliston, we're green and racing. 30 minutes against the clock then as race 1 is underway. Down into Copse Corner immediately. A great start by Christian LeBay in the second row. A great start as well from the front row, namely from Melvin Milliston, as he's still alongside Tyler Vermaak exiting Copse Corner. Cas van Veltzen absolutely screams into 3rd place. Vermaak's a little bit all over the shop on the run down into Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. The same story though befalls the BMW right on his tail, as there's Melvin Milliston already off to a fantastic start from the front row. You can see it's absolutely packed in like sardines for the top 5. It's Vermaak, from Milliston, Van Veltzen, LeBay, and then right behind them, from the looks of it there, that is James Mason, as a matter of fact. So Vermaak from Milliston out of Stowe Corner. It could be around the outside here for Milliston. Goes later on the brakes to put it side by side with the McLaren. Meanwhile, you can see side by side between LeBay and Mason. Right behind them is George Todd as we head through Vale and Club Corner. Right now, Van Veltzen looking to get side by side with Milliston at the exit of Club. He is alongside the BMW and is actually now ahead for the run down into Abbey. This could be quite hectic between the pair of them here. The 68 and the 420 still go 2 abreast down into what would be turn 1 of the Grand Prix layout. Heading now down through Farm into Village. Still side by side, very nearly the suggestion of 3 abreast, but the bottom line right now, that BMW is being swallowed up because the Aston Martin of Christian LeBay is backing onto him as well. Let's get a look on board though from those drivers in and amongst the maelstrom here of the top 5. You can see Cas van Veltzen and Christian LeBay side by side on the exit of Aintree as we head up the Wellington Straight. We're on board with James Mason, right behind him George Todd and Kevin Quain side by side down into Brooklands. George Todd runs it the longer line there, very nearly backs himself into the 607. Great aversion tactics there by Quain that avoided an almost imminent collision on the horizon. This was brilliant for the start there of that top 5. Right now, Vermaak from Milliston, Van Veltzen, LeBay and Mason for the top 5. A great start here at Silverstone. We were not expecting that, given the track record of starts in the Sunday League over the last couple of rounds. That was squeaky clean for race 1 of 2. Already opening the gap up though. Vermaak is not looking to play any more games here. It is absolutely raw from the not the 91, the 81 I should say. Right now, we're watching with Mason sizing up LeBay. He has a brilliant run out of Chapel as we head down the hanger straight right onto the back end of the Season 1 champion. The 119 Aston Martin just narrowly escaping the grasp there. The BMW moves to the inside to cover off any kind of advance into Stowe corner. But sticking vehemently to the racing line is giving Mason all the advantage he needs here, just chipping away at the confidence. And they're trying to strike at the inside, getting inside LeBay's head. Has he just sold him a bit of a dummy here in towards Club corner? It looks absolutely so. On the exit of Club, it's still side by side, very nearly contact over the curbs. Big slide by Mason. He's into the wall on the Grand Prix straight, on the Hamilton straight, I should say, past the Grand Prix paddock. It's disaster for James Mason. Absolutely catastrophic. The move was there, but the car was not. The BMW stepping away there out through Club corner. That was disaster for the 413. On board with Milliston right now, just under a second from Tyler Vermaak in front. The South African already forging a mighty gap there to the Super Sweet. In third place then, the new Flying Dutchman, the next generation of Dutch excellence here in the Sunday League. That is Cas van Velzen, gaining with a vengeance here in the 420, getting right up to the back end of the 68. So this could be, as it was written, an absolute meeting of the Titans. These three still within that championship grasp. 20 points before the start of today. We'll see exactly where it is after race 1 over the course of the discussions for Quali 2. I'm told that Race Control will get the results to us as soon as possible so that we can have a look as to who exactly could come out on top past race 2 today. No funny business. This is the real deal now for Season 3. I have never seen a championship come down to the wire quite like this. Maybe save for Season 1 of the Sunday League between Carmelo Abate and Christian LeBay, but we see this now on a war of 3 fronts between Vermaak, Milliston and Van Velzen. Looking further down the line, Timo Tosto in 8th position, now up and ahead of his teammate Byron Forrest. Sizing up a move in the near future on Kyle Jenkins, himself up the road looking to attack Kevin Quain. That Mustang has had a very spry start of today's race, with just over 5 minutes coming up into race 1 of 2. Looking at where things stand right now, it is still incredibly close amongst the field. We were watching quite attentively there to the fight of second place. Milliston v Van Velzen. Van Velzen with the fastest lap now as Vermaak continues to plod up the road. They're slowly forging a gap larger and larger at every interval. Was about 0.9 of a second. At the last interval was 1.1, just nearly 1.2. LeBay in 4th. George Todd up into the top 5 after a disaster for the 413. Gave the 25 an extra position free of charge. The 607 in 6th place. In 7th place is Carl Jenkins in a very close fight for 6th there with Kevin Quain. Timo Tosto we followed just a moment ago there in 8th position, up and ahead of Byron Forrest. Carl Martel rounds out the top 10 with Bentley. Sergio Belda under siege from Alex Albert. Now this is where he could be increasingly vulnerable to the Bentley's 4-litre twin-turbo V8. Down the Wellington straight we go then. The absolute tank that is the Bentley, despite its monstrous size, actually one of the lightest cars on the field, and that's thanks in great part to the balance of performance, and that's given Alex Albert all the spring and the step that he needs. You can see actually sneaking around behind Sergio Belda right now. That's Archie Hebden on debut in the 150. Now, having climbed up a few positions from the race start, it's a good start right now from the 150. Started from the back, already gained a position on the grid after a pit lane start for the 114 of Ben Cheeseman. Behind him there, a stricken James Mason. Behind him, Andrew Veldkamp to round out the top 15. Then Ivan Sanchez and then Ben Cheeseman, who started from the pit lane. Right now, Vermaak is seemingly becoming a bit more of a distant memory for these two at this time. It's now a story of that fight for second place. Cas van Velzen versus Melvin Milliston. Porsche versus BMW. Let's keep on board with Van Velzen in that fight for second. He runs a little bit wide on entry into Stowe, but past the exit, you can see he's had a much better line of things compared to Milliston. We know how good the brakes are on that 992. Is he going to even suggest a lunge to the inside down at Vale and Club? Absolutely not. We can see, though, we maybe have to eat a bit of humble pie in the assertion that Vermaak was becoming a bit of a distant memory, as he has dropped behind in the last sector alone. He's now under a second away from Melvin Milliston, and right now, all of that pressure from behind, courtesy of Cas van Velzen in 3rd place, chasing him down for 2nd, is actually spurring the 68 on here. I believe right now, and I can't exactly remember the efficacy of this statement, but I believe Melvin Milliston is the only driver in the history of the Sunday League to have a win in all 3 championships ran. I will have to fact check that later on, but you are dealing with some very impressive statistics here. Cas van Velzen has been a force of nature upon entry to the Sunday League. It is no surprise he's been in the discussions of the championship for so long. After that round in Indianapolis, it definitely did kick a lot of wind out of his sails. We can see coming back to Silverstone, he's on all cylinders firing, both arms swinging. He is not going down without a fight, and it is quite evident here in the performance we've seen in the opening 8 minutes from the Dutchman. It is absolutely on point. Fastest lap so far by Van Velzen. We'll cut away just for a moment here from Van Velzen and Milliston as we quickly take a look here. George Todd was a late entry into this championship, but the 25 for Ferrari has been a very impressive sight on this grid. Had he been here from the start of the championship back in Brands Hatch, I'd have no doubt that he could have been in the discussion for a championship fight of his very own. Right now looks to spar with Season 1's champion, the 119 of Christian Lebay with Aston Martin. A home race then for Aston. Out through Chapel, though. He's exceedingly vulnerable to the Ferrari, but he has got one trick up his sleeve here. That's double the cylinders of the car behind him. So in the straights, he just cannot be caught. Heading out of those corners, you can see the vulnerability of the now aging Aston Martin on display as that new generation Ferrari 296 is just creeping around him, is sizing up a chance here, stalking him. On his way out of Club Corner, we can see up in front a very close fight set to happen in a moment's time there between Milliston and Van Velzen. In the background, we can see a close fight about to erupt as well between Kevin Quain, Carl Jenkins and Timo de Tosto for 6th place on the track. That's between 3 cars at this time. Quickly checking in here as we do see the axis point of this fight now between the 68 and the 420 as looking for a switchback through the loop. Now towards Aintree, couldn't find the momentum. That BMW is an absolute rocket ship in straight line speed. Heading down the Wellington straight, you could see in the background was the fight we were just watching there with Todd versus Lebay. But it looks for a move up the inside by Van Velzen, but it's contact between the 420 and the 68. That was incredibly risky. But has Van Velzen held the move past Lovefield Corner? Much to the infuriation, the frustration perhaps, of the 68 of Melvin Milliston heading towards Woodcote Corner. You can see Van Velzen holds it wide. So was there perhaps the intention by the 420 to let the 68 back in front as a sign of respect amongst competitors? Only time will tell us different. We know that Van Velzen sometimes does join us in the chat, so hopefully we'll get a word out of him after today's race and heading into that second qualifying session thereafter. 19 minutes left to go. We're over 10 minutes into this race, and already it has been an incredible start to racing here in the final round at Silverstone. Milliston still in second. Van Velzen gaining, but down the hanger straight, he's just not got the same kind of straight line that BMW brings to the table. We discussed this back in Monza. The BMW is among the fastest cars on this grid. The fastest actually among them, technically by 1 mile an hour, is the V12 Vantage from Aston Martin. Apparently that's down in 4th and actually having forged a gap there to George Todd. So that's good on the 119 there of Christian Lebay, having forged a bit of a gap in. A bit of breathing space now for the Season 1 champion. Looking further behind them, we can see Kevin Quain not too far away from him at this time. Kyle Jenkins and then Timo de Tosto. We spoke of that fight about to kick off, we said in quotation marks earlier on. I'd say that is still very much so the case, heading down in towards Abbey. Do want to draw attention as well to a fight currently going on a little bit further down the field. We do actually see some rather wide action there for Ivan Sanchez. Drops behind Ben Cheeseman, right onto the nose of Andrew Veldkamp. And now at the back of the field, Archie Hebden. Something went on there for the 150. Can't say it was particularly good for him. As you can see, he's now down and out of the field from 14th now to 17th over the span of one sector. That's not going to sit well with the 150. Checking in back with the 420 v68 fight. This has been really the chief among attention here in this race right now. These two sparring. A little bit of lights there from Van Velzen. He's trying to get his elbows out, and these two have really been pushing those machines to the ragged edge. You've seen, for the first time in quite a long time, a proper sense that those cars could tip at any moment heading through these corners. These two drivers pushing them well beyond manufacturer spec. This is absolutely visceral stuff we're seeing now in GT3. Van Veltsen, though, it's a poor exit out of Beckett, but it's an even poorer exit for Milliston out of Chapel. He drops behind Van Veltsen, and he could invite in the move by LeBay and George Todd down the hangar straight. You can see the Aston Martin is reeling him in at a rate of knots there, so that has gone horrifically wrong for Milliston. Started on the front row, is now at the back of the podium, could even lose that to the advancing Aston Martin. You can see damage on the nose. So it was quite a sizable knock against the curbs that he took down at Chapel and has cut across. And that has done quite a waste of damage to the 68. You can see it has really stumped his performance because it's invited in the Aston Martin, now charging on all 12 cylinders to come and have a go for position. Milliston holds the inside into Abbey on LeBay. Now heading out of Farm. In towards Village. Here we go. You can see George Todd right behind them as well to make it a three-man fight for third place on the field right now. LeBay goes for the inside. It's very risky there by the 119, but he just tries to squeeze, heading out of the loop in towards Aintree. It's side by side between BMW and Aston Martin. Ferrari could make this three abreast, heading down the Wellington Straight. Now, having surfed the line of LeBay, George Todd could be looking for a move on the 119, heading into Brooklands. Around the outside goes the 68 of Milliston, gets one position back off of George Todd, could get two for the price of one. My word, what a fight back by Melvin Milliston. 2 positions in the span of 2 corners. Had you need any kind of evidence as to why this man sits atop the championship standings, it's moves like that. Heading down into Copse Corner, though, around the outside goes the Aston Martin. May not have enough momentum here to carry past turn 1. To keep with the BMW, heading down into Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Bear in mind, Milliston's doing all of this with what seems to be a seemingly damaged M4. Already a car that he's not driven in a while here on the Sunday League, getting back behind old machinery. But doing so in style. That was brutally efficient by the 68. 114 in trouble down at Luffield. It's trouble for Ben Cheeseman. Serious damage. Yellow flags are out at this time. Ignore the marshal there who's colourblind. He's waving the green flag in what is very clearly a huge wreck there down at Brooklands and Luffield corner for Ben Cheeseman. That could be our first DNF of this race here. That is absolutely brutal there. We're not sure exactly what's happened to the 114, but it, by the looks of it, is terminal for that car. I do not see the 114 competing in the rest of this race here. Just past the halfway mark, then that's the end of the line for the 114, and trouble finds the quarters of the 113, so the yellow flags come right back out. This time down at Club Corner, Kyle Jenkins runs into a spot of bother, is back into the pits. It's a double DNF for the K1 McLarens. It's disaster here in Silverstone. One of the K1 cars still left on the field, though admittedly not sporting the colours, so that's entirely up in the air whether or not he's even representing the team anymore, and that's James Mason. Bright, vivid colours there, a very bizarre turn of events. Now, we're not entirely sure what the story is behind those colours at this time, but it is definitely a look. We'll catch on with him in a moment as we're looking back up into that top 5. George Todd claws at the back end of the 119 of Christian LeBay. Then in front of him, the 68 of Melvin Milliston. Up front, Van Veltsen can't seem to find the time necessary to get closer and closer to Vermaak. The gap right now at the last interval with 2.6 seconds between the pair of them. That focus inside the top 5 right now, though, is going to be between these three, Milliston, LeBay and Todd. In that fated fight for the last of the podium positions, we've already seen spectacular moves from all fronts there. But who comes out on top now as we enter the second half of the race is an injured 68 versus a careening 119 and a charging 25. Who comes out on top in that fight for the last of those podium positions? Bear in mind, championship at stake here for the 68. He's already dropped behind 2 positions from where he'd like to be, 1 position from where he qualified. And that's much great news, as a matter of fact, for Christian LeBay. So, recent update on the intervals for the front row. Van Veltsen gained 0.2 of a second, according to the data here. So, it is suggesting in the next 13 minutes a potential climb. We'll see exactly how far that data takes us. Right now, we're still watching in that fight of the top 3. Right now on board with the Aston Martin of Christian LeBay. Heading down into Abbey and Farm. LeBay may yet have to start considering his options in regards to a fight potentially for 4th position in the near future here. Right now, still in that fight for 3rd. But with George Todd fighting ever closer, it is potentially a case of when and not if the Ferrari gets side by side with the Aston. It has been incredibly spry over the course of this race. But then again, it's the same choice here between the Aston and the BMW. So it's a very interesting set of circumstances that have given us this battle at hand here. 12 minutes left to go. LeBay still chasing the 68 in front. Briefly touched on the notice that 25 is catching, and it could be a case that the 25 gets on top of the 119 before the 119 can get on top of the 68. But could be seeing the fight really now kick off proper for 3rd place. So I've been told as well. It looks like from where they stand right now in the points for today's race, if they finish where they are, Malwell Racing will secure the championship title for the team's championship after this round. So out through Chapel Corner, still on with LeBay. Let's see if we can get some onboard footage here from the Aston Martin. We quickly just see there a potential fight going on between Belder and Mason. We're on with LeBay. Right now you can see it's a very broad set of perspectives we've got here for LeBay. You look over the nose of the car, you're looking at that fight for 3rd place. You look over the rear, if you can just glance past the rear wing, you're looking at the fight for 4th. The amount of momentum, though, we're seeing Milliston carry into that. It is incredibly risky. It could give rise to some side-by-side action here. He holds centre mass of the road to keep LeBay at bay, but up the inside, past the exit of the, should I say, village corner. Past the loop now, side by side with George Todd. Can the 68 hold his nerve here through Aintree? Barely within view there over the rear view of the Aston Martin. We can see, though, the BMW open the taps up here. Inline 6 versus V6. Ferrari versus BMW down into Brooklands. It was quite the risk there for Milliston, but he's re-secured just for now that look of 4th place. Let's cut away from LeBay, though, to get a look on board with these two, as this is set to hot up very quickly here. Milliston now having to fend off 4th place. He's lost out the podium to Christian LeBay. So this is total damage control now for Melvin Milliston in that fight for 4th against George Todd in the 25. I want to try and get a look on board with the attacking point of view, though. Let's get on board with the 25 here of George Todd. He has been quite an interesting driver to watch over the course of his short tenure here in Season 3. Now looks to go toe-to-toe with the championship leader at his most vulnerable point. Ten minutes, just about coming on 9 minutes left to go. Let's get a look at what the standings are concerned with in the race so far. It's Tyler Vermaak from Cas van Velzen. Now, I want to draw on this point very quickly now. I saw it as we were cutting through the cameras. Get a look at the gap there between Vermaak and Van Velzen. Those two are getting closer and closer. Now, that was up in around 2.1 seconds. It's now 1.2 seconds. So within the next 9 minutes, we could be looking at a fight for the race lead here. Van Velzen has had supreme efficiency behind the wheel over the course of this first race in Silverstone, has held the fastest lap with absolutely zero fight back from the rest of the field. Could this momentum toe the line to a potential surprise race win? Only time will tell us different. 8.5 minutes left to go, and a big stagger there by George Todd. And this whole section of the track just seems to be something very awkward for the drivers, Village and the Loop. Of course, this is part of the arena section of the track that was introduced in 2011. So we'll cut away from George Todd for the time being here, because I do want to draw upon the potential suggestion coming up very, very shortly here. As you can see now, within a second, Cas van Velzen has caught up to Tyler Vermaak. I never thought it possible, but really it is the stuff of miracles here for the 420. A drive like no other here in Silverstone, as we could be discussing in a moment's time here the fight for first place. Never had I thought I'd see things pan out the way they are right now, but on the exit of Stowe Corner, something is awry with the 81. It's dropping time here, hemorrhaging tenths of a second per corner, and Van Velzen doesn't show any signs of slowing down. So how does this one pan out? This is incredibly close amongst these two. Of course, both of them trying to get in line here for the championship lead against Melvin Milliston, now down in 4th. This is their best opportunity to emerge from the 68's shadow here in Silverstone. The gap at its shortest is Vermaak to Milliston, 20 points between the pair of them. Getting a look at that championship fight for all three of them, though, it's 57 points between Van Velzen and Milliston. Looking at it there, 37 points thereabouts between Vermaak and Van Velzen. So still very close amongst the pair here. On the current stead of things, it's not going to be enough to dramatically shift position. Looking at the scoring system as well for this championship, if we try and pull that one up, as we actually do have to pull away the championship fights before we do that. Been a long season, ladies and gents. Looking at where they stand right now, 40 and 35 points for Van Velzen. It's 36 points with the fastest lap. It could be 41 points in a moment's time. Is that going to be enough to emerge from Milliston's shadow? Absolutely, because it's a 13-point leap from 4th place. So he's going to be ever closer to the chances to do so. For Vermaak right now, it's 13 points over him. That would bring the tally, as it stands, down to 7 points if Vermaak wins this race and Milliston finishes in 4th. So that is incredibly short, the gap. It would be all the way to the line for Vermaak if he means to take home the championship. He has fought diligently over the course of Season 3. We've been suggesting it from the start. This could be his championship. We'll see whether or not we've been proven right or wrong. 5 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in race 1. Then 10 minutes of qualifying coming up for quali 2. And we get to do it all over again. Another 30-minute race coming up in the near future here at Silverstone before the end of round 10 and subsequently the end of season 3 of the NLRL Sunday League. Right now on board with Cas van Velzen. 0.3 of a second is the tally now between himself and Tyler Vermaak. This is what we've been waiting for here. 5 minutes left to go. These two are going to spar for the next 3 or 4 laps here for position. But who comes out on top for the race win? Looking potentially for the inside, covered off by being centre mass of the road there. It's Cas van Velzen by Tyler Vermaak. But trying for that. So trying to get inside the 81's head. And this is all quite risky by Van Velzen, but he knows if he can force a mistake out of Vermaak, it's typically going to be quite a big one. So in his case, it would give him quite the healthy gap. Now down the Wellington Straight, we head down towards Brooklands and Luffield. Meanwhile, in the background, the 68 and the 25 are right on top of one another. Let's see if we can get a look on board here. We also see another fight going on out through Aintree. It's among the two Malwar cars. Kevin Quain and Byron Forrest. Quain's into the wall. A big spin there out of... Oh, that was Aintree there. Oh, my word. That's catastrophic there. The 607. Rogue Smithy 08 in chat saying they're going to Spa. They're in Silverstone. Spa. S-P-A-R. There you go. Your tactics don't work on me. Out through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. We're watching now with Tyler Vermaak looking on the cusp of a potential 4th race win in a row. Now on the exit of Chapel. Looking at the stakes of it here, it'll bring these two much, much closer in line heading into race 2. In terms of race wins, it'll be Cass's 2nd this season. It'll be Vermaak's 4th in a row. So heading out of Stowe, bit of an upset there for the 420. In through Vale and Club we go then, just watching with bated breath here. 3 minutes left to go, feasibly 2 more laps left here in Silverstone before the end of race 1 of 2 today for round 10 of the NLRL Sunday League. Vermaak from Van Veltsen, but let's get a look at the final tally here before the checkered flag appears in the next couple of laps. So it's Vermaak from Van Veltsen. LeBay in third. We can see very close behind the fight going on for fourth place. Melvin Milliston versus George Todd down the Hamilton straight and in towards Abbey and Farm. Heading around what would be turn one. Here at Abbey into Farm, and it's really where the BMW is starting to struggle against the Ferrari, trying to cover off the nose there of the 25 down into Village. Now heading towards the loop. This gives Todd the best opportunity. Here it's contact between the pair of them in between the hairpins at Village and the loop. Now in towards Aintree, practically shoving the 68 down through Aintree as we head to the Wellington straight. A bit of a snap over the nose though by an oh so eager 25. This is absolutely ragged racing we're seeing here between the 68 and the 25 all the way to the bitter end of this race so far. This is some touring cars level stuff for those in the know. Not the first time we've seen racing go sour here in Silverstone. Checking in though with these two, it is now right on top of one another for the fight of the race lead. Vermaak versus Van Veltsen as they head through Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. McLaren versus Porsche. McLaren gunning for a manufacturer's home win. Now, the last time they did that was in the hands of Louis Baptiste here in Silverstone. I should clarify, a home win at Silverstone, but let's not get into the specifics too early here because we are seeing side by side on the exit of the hangar straight in towards Stowe, trying for the more aggressive of the exiting lines, even so much so as to pick up grass over the right-hand side of his car. Cas Van Veltsen throwing absolutely everything at Tyler Vermaak for the chances of a race win here. Could it be Vermaak's fourth? Could it be Van Veltsen's second? Only time will tell us different. They're on their way out of club. Looking on with Milliston and Todd. It's very rough between the pair of them on the exit of Stowe. The number 25 looking perhaps for a lunge, backs out of it, is just trying to pound the pressure onto the 68. Now force a mistake out of the BMW on the exit of Club Corner. Seen already, you get too close to that inside curb, you will be shown the full force of the consequences of it. Heading down towards Abbey and Farm. This could go absolutely any which way. We're just quickly teetering between these two fights to make sure we don't miss any potential change of position amongst those two fights right now as the two most prominent of this grid right now. 20 seconds left to go feasibly. We could be on the race down towards one more lap here in Silverstone. That drops very, very close to being within the margins here of a end of race fight. It's all the way down to the line though. We will stay on board with Tyler Vermaak as he heads down towards the line. Could it be a race win now, or is it going to be one more lap left for Vermaak as he heads down towards the line? He's onto the final lap, and with the hair's width there to the timing, that is incredibly close. One more lap then to play for. Those two continue their fight then on towards Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. To the inside at Maggots, then to the outside at Beckett's. Could be to the inside at Chapel. It's going to be very close. It's a lock-up over the nose there of the 420 of Van Veltsen. Keeps himself clear of the 81. That was incredibly close to disaster there. It's given Vermaak a very healthy dose of breathing space in the 81. Looking further down the line, the 68 versus the 25 was our second of two fated fights in the top five here. Milliston on a less than ideal change in fate for this race here, just trying to hold on to a top four finish. But challenging him every step of the way, the late entry to the championship, George Todd in the 25 Ferrari. Now on his way down towards Stowe. How can this one unfold here for the first of two races here in Silverstone? Get ready for a second running of this, though. Don't go anywhere. We get to do this all over again before the end of round 10 of the championship. But already it has been a very dramatic start to the final set piece of Season 3. Checking in with the front row, and you can see the gap is quite healthy now in favour of the 81, having pulled over a second since the incident for the 420. That could be his chances of a race win scattered, but bear in mind only a few more corners to make a world's difference. We'll catch on with those two in a moment's time. Checking in, though, down towards Village between the 25 and the 68. Now, this is where they got into contact last time around. Not this time. Heading into the loop right alongside one another here. Looking to potentially get side by side as they make their way on to the Wellington straight. Out through Aintree then. The 25 following in the wake of the 68. We'll have to catch up with them in a moment's time, though, because Tyler Vermaak is heading down towards the line. Quickly taking a look here as Milliston covers off the inside, but down towards the line here in Silverstone for the first of two races today then. The checkered flag flies for Tyler Vermaak, his fourth race win in a row. He wins wins for the first of 2 races here in Silverstone. Cas van Velzen finishes by just over 9/10 of a second away. Christian Labey takes home a podium position for Aston Martin. But let's see, how does it unfold? It's been incredibly raw amongst these two. Milliston v Todd. Milliston 4th, Todd in 5th. Byron Forrest on his way to the line then for 6th place on the field. A great turnaround for the 824. Timo de Tosto, 7th place after today's race. An improvement from where he started. Carl Martel puts Bentley in the top 10 here at home in Great Britain. The 99 across the line for 8th place. Sergio Belda on his way to the line in the number 50 makes 9th, and a great turnaround for a home race here for James Mason. Not a great start, but a fine exit indeed. 10th place after race 1. Ivan Sanchez, 11th place. Andrew Veldkamp then on his first drive this season with Aston Martin is on his way to the line for 12th place. Alex Albert not too far away from him at this time will be 13th. Archie Hebden on his way in towards Luffield will finish in 15th. Kevin Quain finishing in between them there in 14th. The bottom line, another win for Tyler Vermaak. This could be the set piece that brings us on to this final championship foray. Now, I spoke of the stakes here heading into race 2. If they finished where they were here, the gap, now if my calculations are correct, is 7 points between Vermaak and Milliston at the front of the field. Van Velzen's definitely brought the gap quite far in, but it's still going to take possibly a DNF from both Vermaak and from Milliston to put Van Velzen within the hopes of a clean sweep for the championship. It's all going to be to the line, though. Tyler Vermaak wins the first of 2 races here in Silverstone. Don't go anywhere, folks. We get to do this all over again. Looking at the schedule, of course, we've just come out of race 1. We're on to quali 2 and race 2 in a moment's time. This is going to be a very, very exciting end to today's race. Vermaak then wins for the first of 2 races here in Silverstone. Van Velzen 2nd and Labey 3rd. Milliston 4th. Todd 5th. Byron Forrest 6th. De Tosto 7th. Martel 8th. Belda 9th. Mason 10th. Sanchez 11th. Veldkamp 12th. Albert 13th. Quain 14th. And Hebden 15th. 2 DNFs for Kyle Jenkins and Ben Cheeseman. So you can almost feel the tension in the air. You can almost reach out and grab a piece of it. It is palpable in the paddock now. The gap, what once stood as almost a bulwark there between those two, now is so paper thin. You could poke your fingers through it. 7 points is the margin we're dealing with now. It is quite literally survival of the fastest here in Silverstone. Looking back to that scoring system, all that needs to happen for Tyler Vermaak is he needs to finish 1st. Milliston needs to finish in 3rd. That is the margin right there. 2 positions could decide the championship. So I'm told there might be a free practice 2, which will last for the exact same length as free practice 1. That'll be 5 minutes. If that is the case, we will be back in a moment's time. We reflect there on the data from race 1. A 4th win in a row, though, for Tyler Vermaak. If this isn't a little bit of set dressing for a potential championship push right now, I don't know what is. This is the most invigorated we've seen the 81 all season. Okay, so we have a 5-minute break here before the start of qualifying 2. Let's discuss some of the highlights of that last race just gone. James Mason, of course, started off on a pretty solid note, but then it all went asunder out through Club Corner. Ultimately, the 413 was able to fight things back to a top 10 finish. But I'm still curious to pick his brain over that choice of colour. Never have I seen colours like that on his car before. And I'm curious to find out what exactly those mean. So the preliminary results have supposedly been uploaded, and what it gives us the suggestion of right now is very, very exciting. Right now, of course, that gap is 7 points. 328 points for Melvin Milliston, 321 points for Tyler Vermaak. 282 points right now for Cas van Velzen. and 252 points for Christian Lebay. So it's 30 points between third and fourth right now. And in the factor of second to third, it is 61, I want to say. 61 points there. Yes, 61 points between the pair of them. Actually, no, sorry, I'm being very stupid. It is 40. 39. I really do need to attend classes more for maths. That's just not my strong point. Let's just whip the calculator out and do the numbers on that, because honestly, I shouldn't be letting in numbers another day in my life. I just do not know what I am doing with anything past 1, 2, or maybe 3 at a push. It's 39 points is the gap right now between Vermaak and Van Veltzen. So that gap is coming down. It is still feasible. Of course, maximum points total per race is 41 points. That's 40 for the race win, 1 for the fastest lap. We've already seen that Cas Van Veltzen is fastest lap material here in Silverstone. All it would take is a DNF from those 2 cars in front of him. Now, of course, those standards do stand alarmingly high compared to the standards for example, Milliston or Vermaak, where it's a case of just finish in front of the other or finish X amount of positions in front of one another. Oh, fastest lap. Okay, so it's 43 points that you can get then. So it's not 1 point like it is in normal series. It's 3 for the fastest lap. So that does change things massively, because it brings the tally up from 43 points per race to actually a grand total of available points, 86 points over the course of round 10. This is going to be a very, very exciting story to tell here in the next coming qualifying session and race on the horizon. So we're just under 2 minutes from the start of qualifying 2 here in round 10. We spoke briefly on the 413. Melvin Milliston had sizable damage over the nose of that BMW, cutting past Chapel. And that was just a permanent mark then on his performance over the course of that race. Either something stuck under the aero of the car there, the aero just pushed out of alignment to where the car wasn't operating on 100% efficiency, or it could even been some damage to the suspension over those bumps through Chapel Corner. So I'm told here, and now don't take this with 100% certainty, these are all of course speculations from informants we have at Race Control, but Cas Van Veltzen could be theoretically out of the championship. It would take quite literally nothing short of a miracle here to put him on the top step. Now that is, it's upsetting to hear, because Van Veltzen has had a fantastic performance over the course of the championship. Now looking over the course of the last couple of races, really the major standing point there was practically a DNF in round 9 at Indianapolis. Ultimately that was 16th in that race. Beyond that, his worst result outside of that would have been 15th at the second running of round 8. Beyond that, he has visited the podium more times than he hasn't, and it has been incredibly consistent, but those just few, if any, flaws in the 420's repertoire have kept him from the championship this season. So we got word from Mason as to what the nature of these bizarre colours are, and it was a message saying, just in case it weren't caught, they are special colours are used for the finale round. Okay. I was curious, because we found more often than not in this championship that all of those colours have some kind of inherent meaning, and especially with the teams championship at play. You can see, of course, you know, the colours of the Malwar Racing team, colours of the Hokianos team. What else do we have for examples here? We've got the colours of the Velocity Racing team. And I believe, having a look around here, if there are any left on the field, we've been the colours of the K1 Esports team. I definitely say, and now we've already made pretty solid predictions on who could win a championship. We made this much, much earlier on in the season. Who do I think could take home Season 4? This one is already on that list. That is not ridiculous to say that. The number 420 could absolutely be within a chance of the championship come season 4, which we'll discuss more on after today's race. It's going to be quite a little fun thing we've got going on. We're going to have some guests on, and that should be a little bit of fun. But who would I say is within a chance of a season 4 championship? Already first person to put on that list, in no specific order, Van Velzen. It's been a solid performance. Very closely followed, of course, by Vermaak. And then if he appears for another championship run in the 68 of Melvin Milliston. Currently fastest at the end of that free practice session. Quickly then on to the discussion of qualifying 2 in a moment's time. I would also say I want to throw this hat in the ring just before we get on to qualifying. The 25 of George Todd. I spoke of this during the race. Had he competed from the start, I'd have no doubt this one is within a chance there. Just given how well he can fight up there with the veterans of this series, such as LeBay, such as Milliston, such as Vermaak for that matter as well, very briefly. Earlier on in the championship, I should say, as well. Moreover, that would be a few rounds back, actually, looking more towards Monza back in round 7. We're here at round 10 on the 5th of October. And I must say, it has been a real pleasure over the course of this championship so far. There's still one more story left to tell, and this is where it starts then. 10 minutes to go here for qualifying. We'll be back in just a moment's time as we kick off the start of the last qualifying session of the championship and the first of the the early entries, I should say, is James Mason. Do just excuse the dog. I'm going to go see what she wants. Okay, so we are back, still on board with James Mason, and it's the last qualifying session of that championship. And who else would be first onto the fray than the early bird, the 413, just making his way out of left field onto the start of his first flying lap. So on to that discussion of the qualifying predictions in this final qualifying session. Now, this is based off of data that is already inherently outdated, but it tells us the same story here. Vermaak and Milliston are still looking to be incredibly close. I would say definitely within a shout as well of Van Velzen being further up the order than where the predictions have him placed at right now. Further down the line, of course, then LeBay, Van Velzen, Jenkins, De Tosto, Cheeseman, Forrest, and Belder. Heading down towards the Hamilton straight. Still on board with the 413. Behind him, then, the 68 of Melvin Milliston, and then the 420 of Cass Van Velzen as they head down into Abbey and Farm. 6.5 minutes then left to go. Already has been quite a brisk start then by Mason, potentially to be our benchmark time of today. In the background there, Melvin Milliston hanging on to the lead of the championship by 7 points. It is all down to the wire between himself and Tyler Vermaak, who seems to be on an unstoppable charge in the 81, especially now with his 4th consecutive win in the championship here after race 1. Down to the line, though, goes James Mason as our first time on the charts for qualifying 2. Heading past the checkered line of 1:59.331. Then next to the line comes Melvin Milliston. Half a second up. Then to the line comes Cas van Velzen and puts himself 2/10 up. Right behind him then Timo de Tosto and George Todd, the 2 Ferraris in the top 5. George Todd already breaking to within that very, very close to half a second margin to pole position. Behind him, Kevin Quain goes 6th fastest. Byron Forrest 7th fastest. The 91 next to the line, Ivan Sanchez with Holcianos 8th fastest with Ferrari. And the 150, Archie Hebden on now what is his 2nd qualifying. The 81 across the line, but can't cut the mustard on Milliston. That puts him just over a 1/10 of a second off, nearly a 1/10 and a half from pole position. So this is already looking a lot brighter for Milliston this time around. I think his modus operandi now is just going to be break a line from that start, get as far away from the 81 as possible, get absolutely nothing between yourself and the racing line. Let no quarter subside, and it is going to be absolutely biblical scenes amongst these two come the end of qualifying and come the start of race 2, because you can see as well gearing up for a very hefty charge to the front row, much closer than where he was towards the start of quali 1 is Cas van Velzen. We spoke of this. The chances for him to come up onto the front row are very, very likely, given the fact the 420 now has really cut his teeth at Silverstone. He's taken the fastest lap in race 1. The chances for him to make a serious improvement over the course of this qualifying session are at an all-time high. He may be theoretically out of the fight of the championship, but that has not stunted the performance of Van Velzen, and that is really one of the greatest qualities the 420 possesses. It doesn't matter how many times he gets kicked down, he gets right back up and gets right back to work. 4 minutes left to go then as we head to Luffield. What can the 420 do on a potential improvement drive? Up the road comes the 413 who started this qualifying session. James Mason to the line out of Woodcote. Will it be an improvement for him? Not this time around. Here comes Cas van Velzen. Then what will it look like for the 420? Up to pole by 1:58.327. That's just under half a second between himself and Melvin Milliston. Across the line a moment ago with George Todd. Stays 4th there and ahead of Mason. The 824 next to the line. Here comes Byron Forrest. Can't get up and ahead of Kevin Quain. The number 58 in front of him now. Timo de Tosto remains in 7th and behind Christian Lebay. The 91 came across the line. Ivan Sanchez stays in 12th. The 150 and the 81 get across the line. Vermaak stays ahead of Milliston, but cannot get up past Van Velzen. That is 3.5 of a second there between himself. Exactly a 1/10 between Milliston and Vermaak. Cas van Velzen now looking to force a serious wedge into these two's championship fight. The 616 next to the line. Here comes Andrew Veldkamp right on his trails there. The 90, looking at here, the 99 of Carl Martel from Bentley. 10th place there as he crosses the line. Couldn't find the 200ths of a second, 205 thousandths of a second necessary to get up and past the 824 of Byron Forrest. As we close in on some of the final laps of qualifying 2, across the line just a moment ago there went Sergio Belda, but stays behind the newcomer to the grid, Archie Hebden, in 11th place. Belda and teammate Sanchez, 12th and 13th. Those two only separated by dead-on 200ths of a second. Emerging from the pits behind him there, that's the 413 of James Mason in the ceremonial colours of the final round of the championship for the 413. He makes his way out through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. The 420 is hotly approaching the line here. He's out through Brooklands, now into Luffield. Cas van Velzen has stormed his way not only onto the front row, but has superseded it by taking home pole position. But it's real trouble there for the exit of Luffield. That's going to stunt any and all opportunities this time around for an improvement as he heads out of Woodcote. He's got one more lap here to forge a gap open ahead of Tyler Vermaak, because that could wind in at a moment's notice between himself and the McLaren. He's just going to pray that what he's done here is enough. 355 thousandths of a second. The 81 currently. Let's see if we can find him on his way through Brooklands. Also saw an improvement there by Byron Forrest up to 7th and ahead of Timo de Tosto. The 91 next to the line. Here comes Ivan Sanchez. Now needed 200s to get up past Belder and goes up not only past his teammate, but up past Hebden and up past Markle. The 81 to the line. Here comes Vermaak. One more lap left to go. Couldn't find an improvement there, but I tell you who could. It's Melvin Milliston. Now within exactly a tenth of a second of the fastest time. Vermaak now 255 thousandths of a second behind his championship rival. Looking at the scoring system once again here, if they were to start and then finish exactly where they are in this race, that means that it would be more than enough for Milliston to take home the championship, albeit by a margin of only about 12 points. So this is incredibly tight between these two. It is really a case now, since it looks like the chances of either of them starting ahead of Van Velzen are quickly dwindling. Milliston seems to be the closest chance right now. We'll catch on with the 81 to see what progress is looking like. Those two actually on the same stretch of tarmac on the exit of Stowe Corner. So this could be a very exciting end to the final qualifying session of Season 3 of the Championship here in the NLRL Sunday League. This is going to be absolutely feral. Make no mistake of it. It is really a case now of who dares wins and who finishes ahead of who. We'll check on with these two in a moment's time. Next to the line, though, comes the 36 of Alex Albert with Bentley. His teammate Carl Markle was 11th fastest at the end of this qualifying session. He's got one more lap left to go here in Silverstone. Next to the line comes the 25, and I think just out of time here for one more lap for George Todd in the 25 Ferrari. He's going to have to hope what he's done here is enough. Needs about 0.3 of a second to Tyler Vermaak's time. Needs about 685 thousandths to get to pole. Can't do so, but does find an improvement, so that's a great sign of things to come here for George Todd. Next to the line, the 607, Kevin Quain from 9th place with Ford across the line, up to 7th and ahead of both De Tosto and Forrest. Here comes Timo De Tosto, though, with Ferrari. On his way to the line, can it be a rebuttal? Yes, it is. Up to 7th there for the 58. But here comes our star duo, Tyler Vermaak and Melvin Milliston. Who will take home pole position here in the final qualifying? Down to the line comes Vermaak. No improvement. Comes Milliston. Pole position there for the 68 by 105 thousandths of a second in the very final moments of qualifying today. That was really quite something. One last push by the 68, but it's not over yet. One more race on our hands, and he has made a world's effort to put himself at the front of that field. That is very well done by the 68. One more time to the line then. James Mason, who started this session off strong, right now just looking around a top 5 start, needs about 0.06 of a second. Actually, looking at it here, it's precisely 61 thousandths to get to 5th place. On his way to the line then comes the 413. Will there be enough in the back pocket of the BMW to the line? Sadly, doesn't. Oh, yes, no, it is. Oh, I thought he was holding to the inside there because he was calling it quits. No, it is actually a case where he was cutting just to the closest amount of distance to that timing line, and that's done more than enough. That's 5th place for James Mason, up and ahead of Christian LeBay. So brilliant stuff there for him at the end of quali. So this is going to be absolute hell. I hope that you understand what you're getting yourselves into here just as much as we do here in the commentary box, and just as much as those top 3 are, because this is, for a lot of these drivers, actually the worst case scenario. For Cas Van Velzen, he's caught in between these two as they're going to be ripping each other asunder for the championship. Van Velzen's going to be hoping those two run each other off the track and gives him the possible opportunity to sweep the championship out from under them. For Vermaak, he starts way further behind the Milliston than he likes. He needs to be ahead of him at all costs in today's race. Otherwise, the championship is asunder for him. And Milliston, he's on top of the world. He is absolutely beaming ear to ear in that BMW. This is the best case scenario for him. For the other two, they're in war. They are at war with each other and seemingly with nature itself. As it seems that fate has been unimaginably cruel to put these three where they are at the time that they are. I suppose the words from K1 Jupiter seem more than apt at this time. Prepare thyselves for round 10 at Silverstone. What you are about to see here among these three, it could end fantastically, or it could end in bloodshed. A real battle of Britain on the way between these three in Silverstone. So that's the end of quali. This is going to be, I would say, arguably the most hotly awaited race start of the season, and it is the grand finale. Only one of these three drivers on that first two rows can be crowned champion. The chances for Cas van Velzen are slim, but still there. There is that faint glimmer of hope, and he has clung to that tooth and nail to put himself on the front row. Let's discuss then the grid for the final race in Season 3. Melvin Milliston on pole position by 105 thousandths of a second to Cas van Velzen, makes for one of the tightest front rows we've seen this season, following very closely behind them the second row of Tyler Vermaak and George Todd. James Mason in 5th place, Christian Lebay in 6th, then on to the 4th row, Timo de Tosto and Kevin Quain. Those two clashed for 7th place over the course of qualifying today. Byron Forrest was also among them, and he starts that look of the 5th row right alongside Ivan Sanchez of the Holkianos Motorsports team in the 91 Ferrari. Behind them, excuse me, got something stuck in my throat there. That was horrible. 6th row then, Carl Martel and Archie Hebden, Sergio Belda and Alex Albert on the 7th row, and on the 8th row, Andrew Veldkamp and Ben Cheeseman. This is going to get nasty. A surprise night race as well. Conditions surprisingly, though, on the hot side. So clearly, this is this is an English summertime race that we're looking at here, because it's 27 degrees and looking at the time here, it looks like around midnight. This might be the most fearsome sight I think we've seen on this grid so far. That front row, I mean, I've got the Rush soundtrack playing in the back of my head here watching these two line up. Moreover, with Vermaak there in 3rd place, the chances for his championship are incredibly close at hand. This is going to be something, folks. In my career as a commentator, I don't think I've ever seen a grid as hotly anticipated as this one, nor do I ever find myself without the words to describe that grid. But Lord knows I am clutching at straws for what I'm seeing in front of my very eyes here. This is going to get interesting. Right now, 16 cars then. It'll be 8 on either side of it. With the 30-second warning coming up, we'll get on board with Melvin Milliston in the 68, who took home a resounding pole position here in qualifying 2. The lights already coming on there from Cas van Velzen, a few cars behind him as well. Among them, I believe George Todd's got his lights on there now as well. The grid starts to light up like it's Christmas here. And really, Christmas couldn't have come earlier with a gift like this. This grid is just fantastic to cap off this championship. So we're on board with the man currently heralding the field, that being Melvin Milliston. Now, the simple odds on how he can take home the championship right now are as follows. Finish the race ahead of Tyler Vermaak at all costs. Down through Copse Corner then. So I'm told that by Cas van Velzen, funnily enough, himself chimed into the Twitch chat to say starting second can sometimes be as advantageous as starting first, because you'll be to the long way around the outside at Copse Corner here at Silverstone for turn 1. And that, with the Porsche, gives him quite a hefty chunk of momentum, not only to fend off an attack from 3rd and 4th, but also to potentially get the leg up on 1st if they have a less than ideal start. So a lot in the back pocket there for the 420. Really, the pressure is insurmountable between the two cars on either side of him, Melvin Milliston and Tyler Vermaak. Their championship currently decided by a factor of 8 points. So all it is a case here is survival of the fastest at Silverstone. This is going to get absolutely brutal. We've seen plenty of strong starts here, but the stakes are going to make this one at an all-time high. Knowing what rides on the line here for Vermaak, it has been almost a fated championship, one written in the stars for him since his appearance in Season 2. guided by both champions of the Sunday League, taken under the wing for a time by the Malwa Racing team, now stands with Velocity for the final round here in Silverstone. But this is the man that he has to clear, Melvin Milliston, who has appeared in every season of the Sunday League, a true veteran of the series and taking home a win on every single season. I believe the only driver in the history of the Sunday League to do so. One in Red Bull Ring, one in the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and then looking at the last couple of rounds here, has taken home 4 more wins to make the all-time race win record. Tyler Vermaak himself, though, with 4 wins, gets dangerously close to equalising on second place. That would be with, at this time, if we just pull up the records on that, do give us just one moment. And that's the all-time race winners. It does bring him dangerously close to that second place held by Kuiper and Bush. 5 wins. Vermaak is not too far off of equalising that. Melvin Milliston could look to toe the line up to 8th here. He starts on the front of that field. There is a lot riding on the line. Records, championships, glory and bragging rights alike. Here in Season 3 of the Sunday League, the air is thick with racing fuel and tension. Here as we head down towards Village and the Loop here on the formation lap. Looking around that field as well. Timo de Tosto looks for a great start at the moment. Puts himself up and ahead of Quain, but behind LeBay. So he's sandwiched on all sides by his compatriots there. And the Malwa Racing team will be eyeing up a top 5 by the looks of things right now. As for Ivan Sanchez, it's a surprise appearance for him inside of the top 10, with the Holkianos team will be looking to get the early lead on Byron Forrest for 9th place. For Archie Hebden, it's his 2nd race here in the Sunday League, and he puts himself in 12th. So not too far from a top 10 appearance here. We'll be hoping for a less than ideal start from Bentley in front of him there, that being Carl Martel. Looking up in that top 4, George Todd looks poised for a podium return here in the 25. He's looking very, very sharp indeed. Right behind him, James Mason and Christian LeBay. That is 3 rows of absolutely bloodthirsty contention coming in to the final race of the championship. We haven't much more time to think nor speak of it. As we see here with the 420, we'll be getting on board, though. The man leading the charge down towards turn 1. It's Melvin Milliston then for the final round of Season 3 of the NLRL Sunday League, powered by Malwa Transport and live exclusively on TRTN. The championship hangs in the balance between Milliston and Vermaak. 8 points apiece, 30 minutes left to go, 16 cars, 80 the side of it, on their way to the line here in Silverstone. It's all or nothing for the final round of Season 3. Without further ado, for the last time here on the Sunday League before Season 4, we're green and racing here in Silverstone. A great start by Van Velzen. Could it be that prophesized move up to the race lead? And so it is. After turn 1, a great start by Cas Van Velzen. Look at that on the replay. That is hook, line and sinker by the 420. Unbelievable. Around the outside at Copse Corner, it was written in the stars for Porsche. 2nd place now for Melvin Milliston. It drops him into the iron sights of Tyler Vermaak. These two, in a world of their own, will be looking to finish in front of one another at all costs, no matter what. Trouble for the 36 down the hanger straight. Also for the 150, that I believe being Alex Albert and Archie Hebden. On the race start, that's not gone well for either of them. We're watching right now with Melvin Milliston, started from pole, immediately relegated to 2nd place. Could be looking at a loss of the podium entirely shortly, with George Todd and Tyler Vermaak right up his backside. A big step over the curbs for Tyler Vermaak. He could forfeit position to George Todd. Yes, it is. Up to 3rd for the 25. Unbelievable drama from the start, and now drama again for both of the championship contenders. It has all come asunder, the pressure seemingly too hard for either of these two to handle. Right now, it's Van Velzen from Milliston, Todd and Vermaak. Mason in the top 5, looking further down the line. 6th place for Christian LeBay. We're watching here Kevin Quain and Timo de Tosto clash heads for 7th. Behind him, Byron Forrest and Carl Martel from Malwa 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Ivan Sanchez not too far away. He's reunited with his teammate Sergio Belda there, 11th and 12th at this time. Looking up the order, You can see that De Tosto trying to size up Quain at this time, but he's struggling to keep pace with the 5.4 litre V8 under the bonnet of that Mustang in front of him. It is a whopper of an engine, no pun intended. Looking back towards the top four, we can see just how close it is from one another here. Van Veltzen from Milliston, Todd and Vermaak. We saw that move for the lead, and we also saw that move for third place. Now we see how they tackle things here with 27 minutes left to go. That has definitely been a real crowd splitter start here in Silverstone. We see right behind George Todd, Tyler Vermaak is sizing up a move. Let's get on board with a pair of them as they exit Chapel Corner. Better exit of the two goes to the McLaren as the Ferrari skating all over the road to try and cut even an ounce of that slipstream off of him. Down towards Stowe. You can see the McLaren looking for the inside. Vermaak does go for it. It's contact between himself and George Todd. Turned around at Stowe Corner. It's disaster between the pair of them. What on earth is going on here? The pressure at an all-time high. It could crush the cars if it was any higher. Down into Stowe. Look for the inside. Oh, it's too hard to tell from the camera angles here, but that is dicey. George Todd now down to 9th behind Byron Forrest. That pushes Timo De Tosto back up to 7th. LeBay currently 5th. Mason 4th. So that is a big change in direction there for James Mason. He had a very strong start to the race. That came asunder very, very early on. He's learnt from the mistakes of his past, though. Right now holds on to a confident 4th. Could be challenged shortly for 4th place by Christian LeBay, who's had a great start as well. Let's get a look, though, as we see immediate contact there for the 25 against the 824. Byron Forrest getting a bump up the backside on the exit of the loop. Down towards Brooklands we go. Byron Forrest now puts himself in perfect equilibrium with the cars around him. It was 0.7 of a second entering Brooklands, and it's just looking to swing just behind him, as a matter of fact, to George Todd by 0.6 of a second. Looking up front, Cas Van Veltzen on a world-class start. He had that one already planned out well in advance there. We saw that was practically telegraphed. I'm surprised the BMW couldn't find anything in the ways of a better start there to try and hold off the 420. That one was all but secure. By the time they got halfway through Copse, it was over. So looking around the field, as we look to see where our next fights are coming from, Sergio Belda versus Ben Cheeseman could be one for thought at this time. Heading out of Beckett's and Chapel. Dust kicked up in the eyes there of Ben Cheeseman as he quickly starts to lose sight of Belda in front of him. Looking up the road, we see James Mason slowly reeling in Tyler Vermaak. I want to point this one out. 1.2 seconds the gap between the BMW and the McLaren at this time. LeBay 1.7 seconds away in the top 5. Melvin Milliston slowly reeling back in Cas Van Veltzen. Now, it was a great start, but now the comeback drive is well and truly on for Milliston. He puts it to within 7/10 of a second right now of Van Veltzen over the course of this current section of the track. Down towards the loop we go, or village I should say, and then the loop next coming up. Trouble, though. Yellow flags are out for the 99. It's Carl Martel in trouble. Also had a spot to bother as well was Ivan Sanchez. We see here from Archie Hebden's point of view, the view of the 99 rejoining behind the 150 there. Fortunately, doesn't appear to be anything major in terms of damage. We are noticing, though, with the Bentleys, they are struggling for that that sort of accelerating oversteer. They don't have off throttle oversteer. They have more on throttle oversteer. The back end likes to swing away a little too hard. The differential's a little too sharp. We also saw drop down a position Andrew Veldkamp now behind the 99 of Martel. Looking around the field, Belda's back to the top 10 then, much to the chagrin of Carl Martel in the 99 Bentley. Right behind him, Ben Cheeseman. Those two still very close to one another. Looking back up into the further top 10 at large. We see George Todd, 8th position right now, eyeing up Timo De Tosto. Could be the battle of the Ferraris coming up very, very shortly. Here with just under 7 minutes covered of race 2. It's been a great start here, the consequences of which will be felt much later on in today's race. So right now, after what has been a very chaotic opening few laps, Cas Van Veltzen into the lead of this race. Melvin Milliston second with the fastest lap. Tyler Vermaak in third. Actually, we just saw the time drop away briefly there, but it's come back to Milliston, so that's a bit of an odd one. Vermaak in third then. James Mason in 4th, Christian LeBay in 5th, and Kevin Quain in 6th, George Todd in 7th, Timo de Tosto in 8th position, Byron Forrest in 9th, and Sergio Belda in 10th. Ben Cheeseman right behind him on the exit of Stowe Corner. Could be looking for 10th there. He's from 11th. He's up the inside on the way down towards Vale End Club Corner. What can the McLaren do then? Up the inside he goes. That's textbook by the 114 up to 10th. That pushes Belda down to 11th. Sanchez behind him there in 12th place. Albert in 13th behind him there, looking for a move up the inside, but just a little too slow into that corner to make it stick. Now as we head around Club Corner, Archie Hebden in 14th. Carl Martel right behind him in 15th. Andrew Veldkamp in 16th. You see, though, the number 150 trying and work his way around the 36 of Alex Albert on their way down towards Abbey and Farm. The Ferrari up the inside. The Bentley goes the long way around, runs a little bit off the track there for the start of Abbey. Now through Farm. Ferrari to the outside will be to the inside for the run into Village. You can see sneaking up there the fellow Bentley of the 99 of Carl Martel. Now the 150 up and ahead of the 36. Will we see any kind of fight back here from Alex Albert? It looks likely on the way to Aintree. The Bentleys, they may not be the most popular choice on this field, but they are putting up quite a solid fight here against Ferrari on their way to the Wellington Straight. This is incredibly close amongst these three. Hebden leading that charge, though, down towards Brooklands. Up the inside will go the 36, but it holds short, allowing the 150 potentially to run itself out of road. What it does accidentally do is invite the 99 into the fray, and up the inside through left field corner goes Carl Martel. So that is quite the little fight to pick apart there. Quite a few separate elements combining into one there over the course of that fight. Looking for more fights on the track. Ivan Sanchez versus Kevin Quain could be one on our minds very shortly here. The fight for 11th place between the 91 and the 607. They head through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Out through Chapel we go then. And up the Hanger Straight. Keeping a close ear to the ground on any news regarding that top three. Vermac now with the fastest time over Milliston. So looking for how that affects scoring right now. Will it be enough to even equalise where they are in terms of scoring? Second and third. Right now it will only give a 2-point advantage still to Milliston. So it's still, try as he may, struggle as he can, it's still not enough right now for Tyler Vermac. But he's going to fight all the way to the very end of this. Looking further down the line, that fight previously spoken about there for the 607 and the 91, Sanchez v Quain, could be happening in a moment's time here. Heading down through Village now to the loop. 10 minutes covered into this race, and it has been definitely one to remember, namely for that start. I mean, really, how does one go about describing that? There's been quite a lot of drama there to pick apart in a 10-minute span of this race so far. What it currently puts is Van Veltzen in the lead, Milliston in second, Vermac in third. So incredibly close to one another here. All three of them still numerically within the chance of the championship. Theoretically, Van Veltzen is out of that fight unless these two DNF. But the chances of that happening are still quite likely. With these two pushing absolutely everything into their performance, it's going to take one disastrous turn of events to force them out of commission here. The 68 is gaining ground on Van Veltzen, but every time that the car struggles, and it's been struggling quite a lot over the course of the first 10.5 minutes, it is to the advantage of the McLaren right behind him now with that fastest lap, the 81 of Tyler Vermac. Of course, he might be in a spot of bother come the end of this race after that incident regarding himself and George Todd. We see into the pits at the moment the 150 of Hebden, seemingly with potential damage to serve. I didn't see a stop-go come through for him, or even a drive-through for that matter. So it does leave plenty of questions on our minds as to why the 150's done that. He has come in to service the vehicle. And that does seem to be the case right now with the Ferrari. That is a rare one. Right now, he's half of the way to the prophecy to put himself in the championship lead by the end of this race. Vermac has that fastest lap, but now what he has to do in the next 18.5 minutes is get ahead of that 68 at all costs. That is the only deciding factor left on who is crowned Season 3's champion. Milliston's kept his nose clear for the start there. Vermac could be in a little bit of trouble with the stewards over the incident with the 25. We'll see what they decide on later down the line. But right now, just living for the moment. 18 minutes and 25 seconds left to go. All he's got to do is get that McLaren out in front of the 68. Looking around the field here, close intervals detected for Byron Forrest and Ben Cheeseman. The two not too far from one another as they exit Aintree on the way to the Wellington Straight. In the background, you can see Sergio Belda in the 50, the 607 of Kevin Quain, and right behind him there, Belda's teammate Ivan Sanchez in the 91 Ferrari on his way down the Wellington Straight. And we will be taking a look on board with these three as it is getting very, very close indeed. We can also see very close fighting right now between Mason and LeBay. Let's actually quickly stay on board with these two in that fight for 4th place just while we have the opportunity. We're on board with the 119 attacking for 4th place on the field against James Mason. In the meantime, you can see in the background, that is George Todd reeling these two in. He's moving at a rate of knots there. That is a terrifying sight for anyone on the grid, especially after what's happened earlier on in today's race. You can see that these are the two straight line demons of GT3, the BMW M4, which is joint second with, I believe, to think of other brands on this list as well, Ford and Lexus for straight line speed. The Aston Martin only has them pitched by a single mile an hour. So despite being one of the more antiquated cars of the field, it can really put up quite a solid fight in the hands of drivers like Christian LeBay. It is a very fine-tuned machine. It is not for every kind of driver. It is really a love it or hate it affair. It's much like, as a matter of fact, and this is a bit of an odd comparison, but if we take a look around the field, the Porsche 992 is one that springs to mind. It is a very divisive choice of vehicle. We've seen it work and we've seen it fail. And that's the same story that the V12 Vantage has this late on in the championship, and especially in the hands of LeBay. 3 seasons he's done now with that V12 Vantage. Not once has he considered an alternative. There have been those rumours floating around, though, of LeBay potentially driving for Bentley in the Console Endurance Series. We'll speak of that later on, though. The fight for 4th is well and truly back on, and faster in the straight lines there is the Aston Martin up on the inside of the 413, but Mason's got the run around the outside into Brooklands. A little bit of a step over the AstroTurf on the inside there, and the runoff up through Luffield. He's back to the inside. LeBay to take the long way around. He's a little bit squeezed there between himself and the 413, but up through Woodcote. He's right up and alongside. I've never seen the like here of just such vigorous racing in such a small section of the track. LeBay, in the span of 2 corners, gains, loses, and gains again. I don't believe it. Out through Copse Corner, up to 4th. This is brutal stuff. Absolute cinema here in Silverstone. And this is just the fight for 4th. This isn't championship deciding at all. That's going on up the road right now with Milliston under siege from Vermac. So while we want to keep on board with these drivers, there is duty calling ahead. Right now, these two right on top of each other for control of 2nd place. This will decide the championship. Bear this in mind. Wrap this around your head. Take out whatever information you need for this. This is what decides the championship, is who do we see in front. It doesn't matter now. Van Velzen is up the road. He is quickly becoming a distant memory to these two. They're stuck, tunneled in on one another. It is totally down to this. Halfway into the race, 15 more minutes to decide Season 3. This is where that final push begins. Starting off then down towards Village and the Loop. These two showing no signs of slowing down here, but one driver who has just absolutely vanished from them from that race start. That is a start of the ages there for Cas Van Velzen. Even if he doesn't get a lot of screen time after that first incident, that is one of, if not the greatest race starts I've ever seen in my time as a commentator. And that is a hard act to follow, by the way. So watching with Melvin Milliston. We'll get on board now with Tyler Vermac, the attacking of 2 here in the fight for 2nd place. Feasibly, the fight for the championship. So the stakes here at an all-time high here in the Sunday League. Out through Copse, now to Maggot, then Beckett. Really, I want to try and get a look on board with these two drivers just to sort of pick their brain a little bit, try and study where they feeling the most amount of pressure here. We're watching on board with Tyler Vermac now charging out of Chapel Corner up through the Hangar Straight. And perhaps looking for the inside there now. He tried a very similar move on the 25 earlier on in the race. We all saw how that went And really, it's going to be quite controversial if this comes to repeat itself with this kind of scenario. .2 of a second. Milliston trying to remain calm then, knowing that he has to really put all of his eggs in the defensive basket right now. He doesn't have to worry too much about trying to attack the car ahead. That is well and truly off the table. Jason Bush joining us in chat saying, what happened to Vermaak? He had a comfortable lead. This is the second race. I think you were watching the first one. So this is a double stint race today. So down at the Wellington straight, we're on board with Tyler Vermaak. Milliston right in front of him. I actually dare say you can see Cas van Velzen up the road there. A little faint green speck in the distance now. Is that 420 Porsche, sporting the colours of Manthey EMA, who recently have been crowned the DTM champions here in 2025. So I suppose quite topical for him to be running that livery. Down towards Copse Corner. This might be one of the most tense perspectives I think we've ever got on an onboard. Just knowing what the consequences of it are. What this is all at stake for. In towards Maggots, then Beckett's. A bit of a rough start there is only going to create a bit of a cascade effect here for Mack unless he's able to straighten that McLaren out. You can see the BMW isn't exactly feeling the best of it either. Both of them looking very ropey through that section. Now heading down the hangar straight, absolutely nothing between them, but locked into that slipstream right now, powerless to try and emerge from the shadow of the 68 too early, lest he feels the wrath of that BMW. Down towards Vale and Club Corner. Cas van Velzen 3.7 seconds up the road. I do want to quickly draw attention to a fight going on right behind them at this time. That's Mason v Todd. Just quickly checking in on with these two. Up the road there is LeBay in fourth. We saw his move up to fourth position not long ago. Right now we're just seeing how things unfold between these two. We're quickly going to catch back on board though with Vermaak v Milliston. Down towards Village. Now comes the loop. 10 minutes left to go. This is the most tense 10 minutes of the championship coming up very, very shortly. And it could be the start of a move up to second here for Tyler Vermaak. He is right with him now. He's waited long enough on the exit of Aintree, heading on to the Wellington Straight, I should say. I was about to say the Hangar Straight, the Wellington Straight. Could this be the move up to second place for Vermaak? He backs out of it. He's not going to be fooled into making a lunge as dangerous as that one. If he's going to get around Milliston, he thinks he's going to do it the right way. Absolutely nothing left for debate if he can get up past the BMW. It is stonewall defense from the 68. Quickly tabbing in with that fight for fifth place between Mason and Todd. Right now locked in a stalemate. So back on board with Vermaak. Hunting down Milliston. 9 minutes 55 left to go. Heading to Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. These two have shared in a spectacular championship. But it can only be won by one. Heading out of Chapel Corner. Could this be finally his time? We thought it was coming down on the Wellington Straight. It could, as a matter of fact, be on the Hangar Straight. You can see he's clinging there with almost religious zeal to the slipstream of the 68. He's not letting go for love nor money. You cannot shake the 81 off your tail. Down past Stowe into Vale and Club. Holding short there of a move to the inside. You can see the BMW was holding centre mass of that road. Using a little bit more the left-hand side of the track before his run in towards Vale Corner. He's trying to hold off any possible suggestion of a move to the inside. Looking further down the field here as we see heading into that very same complex of corners. We've seen that Mason is starting to reel back in the 119 of Christian LeBay. George Todd still right with him. That's a three-way fight for fourth place here in Silverstone. For Van Velzen, he's sitting pretty right now on what could be a second race victory of the season. Ultimately, it won't come down to a championship, but really, on a start like that, it is absolutely Herculean by the 420. Heading down the Wellington Straight. Still nothing in the tank there between these two. It is so tense heading out of Luffield. 8 minutes left to go. Let's get a look at the full grid then before we catch back on with that fight for second. Cas van Velzen leads the charge then after a brilliant start to the race here in Silverstone. He leads by a confident 4.3 second margin. These two, second and third place, Melvin Milliston and Tyler Vermaak, the championship rivals. Where they finish here will dictate that championship. The stakes could not be higher for them right now. They're second and third with the fastest lap right now for Tyler Vermaak. LeBay in fourth, right behind him, James Mason and George Todd, fifth and sixth. Timo de Tosto in seventh, Ben Cheeseman eighth, Byron Forrest in ninth, and Sergio Belder in 10th place. We're going to quickly catch back on board though with that fight for second as we recount the rest of the field. In 11th place, Kevin Quain. In 12th place, Ivan Sanchez. Carl Martel in 13th, Alex Albert 14th, Andrew Velkamp in 15th, and a DNF by the looks of it here for Archie Hebden. He's been 5 laps in the pit lane. That's feasibly the end of the road right now for the 150. Watching on board at this time with Tyler Vermaak. Looking for the inside there on Melvin Milliston, but he's not going to have enough momentum to follow that one in towards Aintree. He had a look to the inside there, just not enough at this time for him. Make no mistake, he is getting dangerously close now to the charts. 6.5 minutes here. It's got to be something. It's all or nothing now for the 81. You can feel it in the way these two are commanding those cars around the field. Just how tense, just how much this means to them. It has been 10 weeks of continuous racing here in the Sunday League, and it can only come down to one final point here in the championship. 6 minutes left to go. Feasibly 3 more laps amongst these two before the checkered flag and before the end of this championship. Milliston took a gamble, and it looks to potentially pay off. Bear in mind, both of these drivers know a thing or two about changing vehicle. For Vermaak, it was quite the peculiar choice to see the Lexus era come to an end, but we saw that it gave rise to some of his best performances in the Sunday League. Second half of that championship marred by a continuous presence, and that's a little bit out of date there because it doesn't show that he also won the first of 2 races here in round 10, so that's 4 in a row right now for the 81. Still watching here. This is so unimaginably tense. I think I sound like a broken record talking about it. It's contact between the 81 and the 68. How does he keep running after that one? That has been for the change of second place. How can that one stick there for Vermaak? That was definitely quite elbows out. I'm not entirely sure that would be classified as a legitimate move. This could get ugly here, folks. Heading down towards Brooklands. Ooh, to have a championship decided on factors like that alone, that is a bit dicey for the 81. He went for it, and whether or not the move was ever going to stick there is another question entirely. A slide out through Luffield has definitely not made things any smoother for Tyler Vermaak. Now that he's up into second, he's snipping a lot of momentum in his efforts to stay there. In the last lap, Milliston was only half a second slower, but tapering it now to Vermaak's performance, Milliston is going to catch right back up by the end of the Hangar Straight. 3 minutes 45 left to go here, and that is quite a controversial turn of fate. We don't want to see a championship decided on a penalty, but it looks like it could be the case, even I should say. on the exit of Chapel, but it looks like on track might be the deciding factor, because here comes Melvin Milliston. Could he be fighting this one back to second place? It's side by side on the run down the hanger, down towards Stowe Corner. Around the outside goes Melvin Milliston on Tyler Vermack. Could it be contact between the pair of them? They're getting very elbows out here, running all the way over Stowe Corner, but potentially up into the lead. Here comes the 68 on the inside, down a Vale and Club corner. I can barely speak. Up to the second place goes the 68. Vermack tries to wriggle his way around the outside at Club corner. Could this go sour amongst these two? Pushed all the way out, returning the favour then from Melvin Milliston. Tyler Vermack shoved all the way out past Club corner in towards Abbey. Then comes Farm. It looks to be potential contact, but there's barely anything between them on the exit of Farm. Down towards the village, up the inside goes Tyler Vermack, but looking for the more aggressive exit of two comes the 68 to try and anchor himself to the inside. Now gets back onto the racing line, looking for a charge up through the loop, now to Aintree. I've never seen anything like this before. This is going to go all the way down to the wire, heading down the Wellington Straight. There's one more lap coming up in a moment's time. Could actually be two more, given the current pace of the 420 of Cas van Velzen leading that charge. This is going to get ugly, folks. Make no mistake of it. I have never, ever, ever, ever in my time seen a race come down to the wire like this, and never before have I seen the contact get so incredibly dire amongst these two. That could be a serious deciding point on if Vermack holds the championship. Right now, where it stands, if he finishes where he is with the fastest lap, which he has right now, it will be the championship for Tyler Vermack. But bear in mind, he's still got quite a long distance to travel here before the end of Season 3. It could be yet decided on track by Melvin Milliston. He definitely gave it a very good go over the course of that last lap. He's got him in the slipstream. Straight line speed is to the benefit of the BMW, but he's too far away to make anything stick this early on. Heading into Stowe Corner, running out wide for the entry. This is trouble for the 68. Runs out wide through Stowe Corner again. Heading into Vale and Club. Vermack up to second. And at what cost has that come to the 81 here? Because this could be the mother of all investigations heading into the post-race proceedings. We saw as well cutting out of Farm there. Trouble for the 68 of Milliston, now 1.2 seconds behind Tyler Vermack. Looking around that field to see where our next fights are coming from here as we head on to the final lap of the race. We see trouble for the 607. There is a yellow flag out. It's for Kevin Quain down at Vale and Club. Let's see if we can catch on board with him here. There's the trouble at hand for the 607. Just ran out of room. Couldn't get down on the brakes hard enough and went onto the grass. Down towards the line. Leader onto the final lap. So let's have a look at the final proceedings of things. It is a super controversial look at what could be the championship win here for Tyler Vermack. Cas van Velzen looks to take home a potential second victory here. 8.3 seconds up the road. One more lap here in Silverstone. Make or break now for the 68 and the 81, but it seems all but decided. LeBay in 4th, Mason 5th, Todd in 6th. I've got to hand it off there to Mason to hold off George Todd for as long as he has there. Given how fired up the 25 has been over the course of this race, that is really quite something. DeTosto in 7th with Cheeseman for company. That could be all the way to the wire between these two. They've got one more run around Silverstone here before the end of Season 3. DeTosto on a very late entry shows great promise. I'd also put him on that list of potential candidates for the championship next season in Season 4. Forrest in 9th, Belder 10th, Sanchez 11th, Quain in 12th, Martel 13th, Albert 14th, Veldkamp 15th, and Hebden back on track will finish 16th. Right now, though, there's Cas van Velzen. Not too long now from a victory. Tyler Vermack. As it stands, this is definitely quite a controversial end to the championship. As to where exactly this will go, we'll just report it as we see it. Heading down towards The final run then of the Wellington Straight here. We're on with Cas van Velzen, who took a dominant early doors lead of this race. Started from second place, swung around the outside on a world-class send, Alonso-esque, dare I say it, as he makes his way down towards the line then on the final lap here at Silverstone. The checkered flags fly for the 420. His second appearance on the top step of the podium. A fantastic way to finish off the championship for Cas van Velzen. He wins in Silverstone. Down to the line then comes Tyler Vermaak on what has been a very controversial end to his championship endeavours, but both he and Melvin Milliston have shared in one of the greatest championship stories the world has ever known here on NLRL. He's the champion here in Season 3 of the Sunday League. Melvin Milliston finishes third, Christian Lebay in fourth, James Mason in fifth, George Todd to the line in sixth place. Ben Cheeseman followed all the way to the line here by Timo de Tosto, got up and ahead of the Ferrari. It goes all the way down to the line between the pair of them for seventh by 0.3 of a second there. Cheeseman 7th and De Tosto in 8th. Byron Forrest on his way to the line. He's currently making his way out through Woodcote and down towards the line he goes into 9th. Sergio Belda to the line then for an appearance for the Holkianos Motorsports team. Their second top 10 here in Silverstone. 10th place for Belda. His teammate right behind him, Ivan Sanchez, in 11th. Kevin Quain had some trouble earlier on in this race. He'll take home 12th. Up and ahead of his teammates Carl Martel and Alex Albert. To the line then come the two Bentleys, but looking on with, by the looks of it here, Tyler Vermaak, a very controversial end to the championship definitely at hand here, but these two have shared in one of the greatest stories in the history of the Sunday League. That is proper controversy. Cas van Velzen has played his part in it eloquently, and so too has Christian Lebay, but it could only be one by one, and right now, until we're told otherwise, it's the 81 of Tyler Vermaak, who wins Season 3 of the NLRL Sunday League. We'll try to get a word out of him here. We're also going to try and get a word from Melvin Milliston, because this is quite a juicy bit of gossip here, and you know exactly what our role is as media here in the Sunday League. So let's get on with that. All right, so just to put some preliminaries on the table here, we are not responsible for what these drivers are about to say. If they do say something, we're just going to cut the line. That's kind of the plan right now. I'm not expecting kind words. Since we're not the FIA, I'm not planning to fine these people, so let's get this on the road. Let's put it then. So first of all, Tyler Vermaak, let's see if we can give him a little call and have a chat then. Champion in Season 3. Right now, we're not expecting 100% a response there from Tyler Vermaak. We've had it before, and it was when we first introduced the interview system that not everyone wanted to get on the microphone, and that's fine. The drivers reserve their rights to do so, but it's always fun to be part of the live experience. But we do actually have word there from Tyler Vermaak, but his microphone does appear to be off. We'll have the desktop audio on just to see what things are like. Hello, Tyler. It's Regan Clark here from TRTN. How are you feeling then? Definitely one of the more controversial championships I've seen come to an end, but you have emerged at the top of it as the victor of Season 3. How are you feeling then after 10 weeks of racing? By the way, don't type. I can see you typing. I can see you typing. You may as well type in the Twitch chat. Okay, well, he says very good. Can't speak now, accidentally answered, sorry. Okay, that's fair enough. So that was a brief chat with Tyler Vermaak. Now, of course, as mentioned, we don't hold it too personally. Every driver reserves their right not to want to speak on the matter. So let's see if we can try and get a word out of Melvin Milliston, just to see, really, how is he going to be feeling coming out of this race. This could be a bit more of a heated response. So do prep yourselves for that. By the way, these are all unprompted. They don't know I'm calling them. I'm not too sure we'll get a response out of him this time around, so sadly, that's a double negative. Oh, well, I mean, not the end of the world. You know, we've got some more stuff coming up. That will be fun. We might actually have another voice besides my own, which ought to be quite relieving for the fans at home to finally hear anyone who isn't me. But let's quickly cut over to our new little segment here, and we'll be back in just a moment's time. So, for the reveal of the NLRL Sunday League Season 4, I'm joined by Ethan Oliver, former competitor of the Sunday League, competed for Bentley on several occasions, and is also in charge of the team responsible for the NLRL Sunday League's production. Ethan, how are you feeling? Oh, hang on just a sec. There, sorry, we forgot to enable your audio. Great ecstatic.
There we
Ethan.
go. Yes, what a season that was. That was, wow.
That was quite controversial, Exit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I mean, we could tone down the formality. That was, it was a bit. It's a bit rough. I can't lie to you.
I'm not looking forward to that decision.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. All right, so we spoke about this, and this is something we now want to reveal to the stream audience on how exactly we're going to go around previewing what the calendar is going to look like for Season 4. We tried to sort of wrap our head around, what kind of tracks are trending and, what kind of formats are trending, and ultimately we started throwing up blanks. So we decided to opt for what was arguably the better idea at the time, randomizing it. So we have a wheel, as you can see, round, several tracks on it. We're going to spin this wheel 10 times, and that's going to decide the Sunday League calendar. Is it at all obvious that I've not written a script for this section at all?
I think this is the best idea.
Well, yeah, fantastic. Okay, let me just quickly get this ready. Okay, so of the tracks, we've got plenty on the list. Barcelona, Brands Hatch, Hungaroring, Misano, Monza, Nürburgring, Paul Ricard, Silverstone, Zandvoort, Zolder, Snetterton, Alton Park, Donington Park, Kyalami, Suzuka, Laguna Seca, Mount Panorama, Watkins Glen, Kota, Indianapolis, Ricardo Tormo, Red Bull Ring, Nürburgring, 24 Hours, Spa, and Imola. So plenty of options. We only get 10 of them. So let's give this a whirl. And it's Indianapolis.
Ooh,
that's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, Indy was fun this season. It was fun back in Season 1. So that's Indy off of the list now and onto the calendar. So round 1 of Season 4, the NLRL Sunday League, will take place in Indianapolis, so the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course, as used in the GT World Challenge America Series. Let's spin the wheel again. Let's see what we get. I'm hoping for Silverstone. I'll keep it honest with you. I'm looking for Silverstone right now. Is that going to be Valencia? Yes, it's going to be Valencia.
Yeah,
right,
okay, that's a good one. That's a good one.
All right, not too shabby, right, for start. Bear in mind, folks, we've yet to decide what the lengths are going to be for the calendar. So
that'll be later on.
So Valencia.
I don't know. Could you stream in the call, because I'm watching the stream. There's delay.
I can't. You're gonna have to live with the delay.
Cool. I'll have to live with the delay.
Okay, so I just won't say what it is. I just won't say what it is. And okay, honestly, I'll be honest. It's not too bad. It is not too bad right now.
I'll take it. It
could get a lot worse. It could get a lot worse on here.
It nearly went on that. It nearly went on a Nürburgring, and that could have been a lot worse.
Ooh, oh, get in. All right, that's fantastic. Yeah.
Is it Silverstone?
No. But it is pretty solid. It is pretty solid.
Oh, I was nearly Misano. I got scared there. Okay, Monza's great. We can live with Monza. That's good. If it was Misano, I might have been a bit sad.
Yeah, I don't hate the circuit. I just find it a bit boring.
It just
Okay,
doesn't work
okay,
half the time.
okay, okay,
Okay.
okay.
Is this a good one?
Yeah. No, honestly.
Spa? Okay, yeah. I mean, every
Okay.
good championship has to have Spa. It's like a rule. Like, even British GT goes to Spa, even though it's British GT. So, like, it's just a rule,
It's Spa,
isn't
isn't
it?
it? It's brilliant.
Spa, innit? You have to
Ooh,
have Spa.
ooh.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Not.
Okay, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna be
yeah,
honest. This
yeah.
is really
GP.
not that bad. Yeah, GP.
I'll take it. This is going really well so far. Now it's going to ruin it because we're going to get, like, Snetterton.
We could get Snet, Misano, N24. Oh my word. Oh, we'll have a look. Of course, we'll have a look.
Okay. Oh, yes! Alton Park!
What a track.
Oh,
What a
we'll
track.
take it. I love it.
Okay.
That's going to be great.
Right, so these are the last 3 rounds coming up.
Okay, this is what actually matters.
Okay.
This is the
Could have
important
been,
ones.
right, could have been back-to-back MSVs. I'll take this. I will take this.
Kyle Army. I'll take Kyle Army's a good track.
Yeah,
It's a
Kyle
good track.
I'd say it's pretty decent for racing opportunities. I'd say
Um,
it does lend itself better to endurance, but like, you know, it's, at the end of the day, there are worse choices on this list, and that ain't one of them. That ain't one of them.
Yeah.
I will say this.
Is it gonna be stat?
I was expecting this. I was expecting this to throw like so hard, and we'd have to cut this out of the stream entirely. But no, this is really good.
Laguna Seca.
Ooh.
Oh. Okay, this is good. This is good. Okay, we've got a really good one so far. If this lands on Snet for the last one, it'll be really. Is it actually? Is it actually? Is it actually?
No, it's Silverstone.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah, that's great. I'll take it.
What a calendar! This
That is a good calendar. That is actually good.
Yes. Oh, I love Silverstone so much. All right, so there's your calendar, folks. Indianapolis, Valencia, Imola, Monza, Spa, Nürburgring GP, Alton Park, Kyalami, Laguna Seca, and Silverstone. Lengths and formats will be figured out, and the dates will be revealed like soonish. I'd say give it like about a week or 2 weeks. We're gonna go on a week's break here after round 10. Let everyone take the week off. But
oh wow, that's great.
Dodge the bullet there. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. There's some of those in there that I would have liked to see as well. Suzuka would have been pretty cool to have on there. Maybe
it makes good watching.
Yeah. I find it like it's a bit muddled for GT3, and track limits is terrible there.
Yeah.
So
oh yeah, true.
I
thought it would have been funny.
Mount Panorama dodging the calendar is a travesty in my opinion, but
yeah,
I will take what we're given here, considering that is not too.
See in the chat, Alton Park 4 times 30-minute race. That's an idea.
Yeah, maybe.
Enduro sprint.
All right, so we will catch up with you in a moment's time. Now, to quickly discuss then what is going to be the Teams Championship. So, of course, Malwar Racing has won the Teams Championship. And looking at it here, let's see who's on that list then for the Teams Championship. Now, there's quite a few. It's an extensive list of drivers in the Malwar Racing team. So, standings for the Teams Championship. Now, of that team is LeBay, Quain, technically Cassier, but he was disqualified, Forrest, DeTosto, Martel, Albert, and Veldkamp. Also drivers in there, but they weren't competing in the championship, Dupois, Gaudreau, and Prime. But yeah, very well done there to the Malwar Racing team. A brilliant championship there to take home. That's all from us here on TRTN, and that's the end of the line on what has been a fantastic championship. Have a wonderful rest of your evening then, and take care. Good night.